confidence.
Share.
It's been a long time.
Hello, random. Congratulations, you are indeed first. Oh.
The American president is critical to the future of the country, and it's clear to even a casual observer of Donald Trump that his patterns of speech, selective adherence to truth, and apparent joy that he takes from other people's suffering indicate that something strange is going on in the way that he perceives the world. Psychiatrists are often reluctant to speculate, diagnosing someone in the absence of a face-to-face clinical exam. And yet it appears that Trump has taken several such exams electively, including brain scans and mental acuity tests, which he brags that he passed with the most phenomenal possible results. But he never releases those reports, which is why I have brought Dr. Frank George on the show today. Now, George holds a PhD in psychology and neuroscience from the University of Colorado Boulder and was formerly the chief of behavioral and biochemical genetics at the National Institutes of Health. He's an expert on narcissistic personality disorder and writes a popular Substack that focuses on Trump's mental health called The Gaslight Report, which I highly recommend that you take a look at. And today, he's going to tell us not only why Trump might be a narcissistic person, but there's actually something going on in his brain which is so much worse.
I promised myself I wouldn't make this kind of video anymore, but honestly, some things are just too big to ignore. Now, I realize that I'm going to get a lot of comments from people who think that I'm a woke leftist. But German history is one of the things that I talk about on this channel, and when parallels are already being drawn between major events today and what was happening in Germany about 95 years ago, it would be remiss of me not to say anything. So as US Immigration and Customs Enforcement,
Did you hop off gear looking hella small? Yeah, you wish.
ICE continues to terrorize the general population, many of its critics have been comparing it to the infamous Gestapo, suggesting that it's part of a new fascist regime being set up even as we speak. I don't think that this is the best comparison, though. That's not to say that the events unfolding over there are not horrifying, they absolutely are, but I personally would compare ICE not with the Gestapo, but with the SA. The Gestapo is a rather different organization. So perhaps we should start by asking ourselves the question, what was the Gestapo exactly? Now, if, like me, you're British and grew up in the 1980s watching the sitcom Allo Allo, you might remember Herr Flick of the Gestapo. Or if you're not that old, you might be thinking of Stephen Merchant's character in the movie Jojo Rabbit. But of course, these satirical portrayals really don't do justice to the sheer horror of what the Gestapo actually got up to. The word Gestapo is actually a contraction of the phrase Geheime Staatspolizei, which means secret state police. It wasn't secret in the sense that nobody knew it existed, it was secret in the sense that it was responsible for covert surveillance and intelligence gathering. At least that was the intention when it was set up in 1933, although set up is not exactly the right word here. It was formed out of the Prussian secret political police, which had been around since the 1850s. Its job was to monitor political activities and investigate political crimes. It had become necessary in the
Forgot my name, Vacation Retailers. The fuck does final streaming? Well, I bought lottery tickets. Thanks for the donation, Forgot my namification.
eyes of the government, after a revolution in 1848 almost succeeded in putting an end to the absolute monarchy and turning Germany into a parliamentary democracy. The political police was supposed to ensure that that didn't happen again. It failed though, and the German monarchy finally came to an end in 1918, after which the political police had a new task. Now it was to protect democracy against extremists from both the left and the right, which, by the way, included the new National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. Again, it failed, and in 1933 it was reformed into the new secret state police to guard, once again, against the evils of democracy. Except now, instead of defending the monarchy, it was defending the Nazis. This new organization quickly became little more than a branch of the government, and its job was to identify and neutralize any remaining political threats to the regime. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too honest, and the government didn't like Gestapo reports that suggested the general population wasn't completely happy with the regime. So in 1936, the surveillance part of its job was taken over by the
I'm eating rice, tofu, broccoli with chickpea sweet potato dal.
Security Service, which
like
passed
curry.
on to the Gestapo any intelligence it gathered about political dissent. The Gestapo was then responsible for not only investigating these reports, but also for
Oh, I thought you were going to hero yourself. Good luck. No. That's not what I meant by that. Thanks for the donation, though, dude.
administering punishments, which could range from small fines all the way to summary execution, which it was empowered to do without the tedious rigmarole of having to get the courts involved. Not that that would have made much difference, because by then the government had already made sure that all of the judges were Nazis. The Gestapo were brutal and used all kinds of unethical practices to persecute anyone they regarded as an enemy of the state. For example, they would blackmail and torture their victims and even fabricate evidence simply in order to extract confessions from them. But what they didn't generally do was to march around the streets in broad daylight, beating, arresting, and even killing anyone for any reason. That, as I said, was the speciality of the SA. The history of the SA is even more complicated and confusing than that of the Gestapo, but basically it goes back to the very beginnings of what would eventually become the Nazi Party. This was in the uncertain and sometimes violent period between the two world wars, when it was quite normal in Germany for political parties to employ their own security personnel. The Nazis were no exception, and their security guys formed what came to be the Storm Division, the SA. These were not people who were selected for their intelligence. It was a paramilitary organization that specialized in brute force. As the Nazis grew in power and influence, the SA was doing a pretty good job of instigating fights and riots in the streets. Its main targets were communists, social democrats, Jews, and even some Christian groups. In short, they were thugs who, over time, became more and more organized and eventually developed a military-style hierarchy. In 1933, as the Nazi Party was tightening its grip on power, the SA was in effect used as a kind of auxiliary police. Regular police officers were made to patrol together with SA men who were authorized to act on behalf of the state. Once the infamous Reichstag decree was enacted, the SA was suddenly free to do almost anything it wanted, and set about terrorizing, arresting, imprisoning, and torturing anyone they didn't like. However, while the SA helped to put the Nazis in power, it was now in a position to remove the Nazis from.
And conservatives say Trump is nothing like Hitler. Bullshit.
He seems to have mental illness, sort of like Hitler, and he is, according to one source, quoted as saying, Hitler had some good ideas. So, yeah. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
On power, and had therefore become a threat. So in 1934, the party neutralized the SA by assassinating its senior members and taking over its leadership. So, to sum up, the Gestapo was mostly concerned with investigating and punishing political dissent, while the SA was more concerned with terror through brute force. How does this correspond to present-day America? There are, of course, no perfect matches, because history doesn't really repeat itself. As the saying goes, it rhymes. So we're not looking for exact parallels, but rough approximations. My impression of ICE's activities at the moment is that they're closer to what the SA might have done. According to reports, its recent massive intake of new recruits has happened with very little oversight and barely any training at all, as evident in the astoundingly unprofessional conduct we've seen of late.
Yeah.
So I think that ICE is being or has been reformed into the Trump administration's SA. Bullies who are authorized by the state to bully people. The role of Gestapo, I think, is more likely going to be played by something like the FBI, perhaps with the help of an intelligence agency like the CIA, just as the Gestapo was helped by the security service. And I have to be honest, given the apparent lack of oversight, I have a nasty suspicion that a lot of these new ICE agents were involved in the January 6th insurrection and
Yeah, that's being talked about a little bit. It's suspected that some of the people who participated in January 6th are ICE agents.
have little or no formal training. In short, they are, not to put too fine a point on it, thugs. And I think this is what we have to bear in mind. It's not just one organization that we have to work.
Dude, the whole ICE recruiting thing is actually fucking psychotic. They basically get no mental health assessments like the police have to go through. They do prioritize hiring people with former law enforcement experience according to them, but that's not a requirement. They get you basically have to watch a fucking television show. That's your training. And then they get to do whatever the fuck they want. It's nuts. And I've seen them literally just going through the street, rounding up people who look ethnic. So if they see somebody who looks vaguely Mexican, they'll just arrest them for no reason. It's absolutely fucking insane. And there's a huge incentive for fucking unhinged assholes to join ICE. Because one, you see what the fuck they're doing. So just anybody who's kind of an unhinged maniac would just be encouraged to join ICE. Just because they see, oh, I can fucking beat up immigrants and brown people? Fucking awesome. And they're given massive fucking upfront bonuses. I've seen some of them get $20,000 sign-up bonuses. It's unheard of. It's nuts. And they're making good money, too. Their actual salaries are really high.
Colonizers when they found Africa.
Looking at this, I had so many questions. Why are they black? How much do they cost? And what is their real purpose? Looking at...
Yeah, I'm sure they were thinking something like that. Thanks for the donation, SV. That's a good one.
Thanks for being on the show today, Frank.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, let's dive right in. In a recent article,
Just wanted to say this, Richard, you're a genuine inspiration for me when it comes to working out harder and getting real strong. Well, thanks. Glad I could be a positive influence. I just had a pretty good workout. I'm going to switch my leg days before my back days because I had a little bit of trouble today. My back workouts, I'm lifting heavy enough now where my lower back is pretty fatigued, and then doing legs the next day makes it pretty difficult.
I wouldn't be surprised if members from the KKK joined ICE.
Well, and there's no screening. Literally no screening process, so yeah, guaranteed. I can bet, I'd bet my life on it that there are some KKK members in ICE. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. And I'm not going to do barbell squats anymore. I'm just going to squat with a safety bar. My spine has a weird shape. It's slightly kyphotic. And because my traps are so large now, there's no comfortable place to put the barbell. So I'm just going to squat with a safety bar. And but my joints are feeling better than they've ever had. I'm having absolutely no knee pain when squatting. I'm able to squat nice and deep, and that's with like all leg exercises. I don't have the weird aches and pains and like painful crackling and shit anymore. So it's going pretty good.
You wrote that Trump is, and I'm going to quote you here, a dementing, malignant
Wandering
narcissist.
Ice, I'm doing good.
What do you mean by that?
Malignant narcissist is one thing. Dementing is a whole nother level on top of that. The idea that for years and years, people have been talking about Trump having possibly this personality disorder that we call pathological narcissism. He shows all the symptoms of having the more severe version of it that we call malignant narcissism. And that's been more on display over the past couple of years, and more people are talking about it, which is a good thing. But they're talking about
I do have a barbell pad, but it's a really bad idea to squat with those. They changed the position of the barbell, so you have to reach further back, and it's just way more dangerous to squat with something like that. Because it's a pad and it shifts around and shit, like you're way more likely to get fucked up and injured, especially if you're lifting heavy. Like if you're a girl and you're like just stupid and you're only squatting with like fucking 5 pounds on the fucking bar, like it doesn't really make a difference, but there's no way you can safely squat with several 100 pounds with those things. They're a really bad idea. So, safety squat bar, perfectly fine. It's just more of an upright squat, really. And it doesn't aggravate my spine or fuck up the skin on my back where I keep getting like these crazy scabs.
Who made this banger?
Let me take a look.
If I'm out in Kohak, don't say hi. I got a stick in that bitch for 5. You know at my lowest, I'm still getting high. And if I'm with Lois, I'm blowing inside. Vegas a bitch, but I'll let it slide. Stewie the goat, I think that he pie. Brian my duck and I fuck on my wife. But that's just a life of a family guy.
Seems to date and all you see is crackers and whores. All MTV, bitches is Kohak, this is the streets. Shout out to Joe, but fuck the police. My daddy is rich, American dream. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. I might be a ginger, but my soul is free. I might be a bitch, but I rap.
That's pretty good. The chicken fights in Family Guy were definitely like top tier Family Guy. Looking back at the series, like most of the episodes are actually fucking terrible. The chicken fights were great. There's some like small skits within the episodes that are good, but like most of the episodes are like genuinely terrible. I think Family Guy and Cleveland Show were way more consistently funny, especially Cleveland Show. Unfortunately, he canceled that one because nobody watched it, but that was probably the best one Seth MacFarlane made. SV don't need $5. Let me see.
In a pinch, if you have to, you can turn your ordinary dishwasher into an air conditioner. Let me show you how. First, you're going to take a piece of cardboard. Here, hold this. Move it up and down. It's that simple. In a pinch, if you have
That makes sense. She's the dishwasher. Thanks for the donation, SV.
it, in part because there's this other thing that is now apparently going on.
Even South
that is this
Park's
form of
being
dementia.
pretty shitty lately.
And one of the big problems with
They've had some
that
good episodes,
combination
but
is that the type of dementia is one that accelerates or exacerbates.
I remember there was one season recently, I think it was like the second last season, like that was actually unwatchable trash.
Underlying personality, not diminishes it. So the dementing malignant narcissist is just a whole new level of malignant narcissism. It's something that I don't remember ever having seen or having read a report about or anybody ever talking about with me is that particular combination. And the point is, it's very, very dangerous.
Okay, so we probably need to dig into what this means specifically. Now, I think a lot of people have, watched Trump and said casually, this guy is a narcissist. He's always talking about himself. He's very self-centered. But there's a clinical definition. And why don't we just start with some of these terms? So what is a malignant narcissist?
Okay, sure. Well, for years, I mean, we can go back as far as Freud, if you want to go back 100 years ago, which we don't need to do. But for at least decades, back in the 60s, 70s, the idea of a particular disorder called, that came to be called narcissistic personality disorder, came on the scene, started to get it included as a psychiatric or psychological diagnosis. And it involved particular personality issues, one of the main ones being the sense of extreme grandiosity. And we see this expressed in Trump just so often. And it's grandiosity with everything. You can say, oh, such a narcissist, they always have to have the best, type of thing. But if you notice, like during COVID, one of the big issues that to us, and by us I mean me and all my colleagues, noticed immediately was when he had the conference about ivermectin and bleach, and he came up with the idea, why don't we inject bleach up their butts? That was him having to be better than everyone else, than all the MDs. I have to know more. I have to be the best. I know more than the generals. Do you ever say that? I think he said that. I know more about ISIS than the generals do. You can just go on and on and on. It's not just.
Yeah, and Elon Musk claiming he knows more about engineering than anyone on the planet.
Agreed, VG Family Guy was always shit. I don't understand why so many people praise that show. It's only appealing to people who like shock value.
There's nothing, like, at least by today's standards, like, nothing really shocking about the show. Lately, Family Guy has, like, gone fucking insane, where, like, they're not even doing comedy anymore. They're just doing these, like, bizarre, like, gross, what the fuck were they thinking type things. I remember, like, when I just completely checked out of Family Guy and I just didn't bother watching it anymore. There was an episode where Meg was attracted to a guy at her high school. The guy turned out to be gay, and she still wanted to see him naked. So what she did was she tried to convince the guy that her brother Chris was into him, and she drugged her brother Chris so that he was passed out on the bed. And she tried to set it up as though, oh, Chris is just shy about being gay and he wants to play out the scenario where he's asleep and you have sex with him. And she tried to convince this guy to rape her brother while he was drugged out unconscious while she was, like, watching in the closet. Nothing about that is funny. Nothing in the episode was funny. And it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't want to see a show about, like, psychotic people who are trying to, like, rape each other. It's just weird. So, like, I just stopped watching after that. And there were some other, like, stupid fucking episodes where people, like, were just chasing after a dollar bill or something. Like, it's they don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. And yeah. So yeah, fuck Family Guy. It's just awful. And, like, again, looking back at it, there's good moments, but overall, like, the show isn't very good. Like, the chicken fights are fantastic. There's a lot of, like, funny meme moments, but the shows overall are just, like, fucking terrible. Quagmire's funny, like, that's just his shtick with a character, but, like, yeah, what they're doing with the new episodes and seasons is just baffling. American Dad is very consistently funny and still enjoyable. I think Cleveland Show is the best one Seth MacFarlane made, but I guess people weren't watching it, so he canceled it.
What 1000 hours of Far Cry 5 looks like.
Anybody who plays Far Cry 5 for more than an hour is an idiot. Far Cry 5 was so fucking garbage. This is when the series just completely went downhill and took an absolute shit.
Got everything we need. Convoys, unless...
shot. That's all I'll say.
Holy crap! Damn it!
When's he gonna blow up the fire? That was neat. I remember playing, like, Far Cry 5 was just boring. There was no story whatsoever. They hyped it up as, like, the most controversial and blah, 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 and it's gonna have, like, religion in it. There was no story. The gameplay was worse than Far Cry 4, and even Far Cry 3. And, they made bizarre decisions, too. I remember playing that game and just being shocked at the amount of female enemies. Like, I remember invading some of the bases in Far Cry 5, and it was all women. And I'm like, why? Is this like DEI inclusion bullshit? Like, this is what SJWs want? Like, it was just weird. Thanks for the donation, though, SV.
That's not funny, it's creepy and disturbing.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Corella tongue punched me, donate $2. Corella DeVille rocking that V8. Long block, putting down the horsepower with fire spitting out the headers. Oh, yeah. I really loved this cartoon when I was a kid. I don't think that's a V8. That might be a V12. One, two... Oh, no, it's a V8. I'm assuming those are the ignition coils. That's a weirdly long V8.
Pongo, look! Just, there ain't nothing to it. I'll give him a bit of a nudge.
Yeah, I really liked 101 Dalmatians. Kind of want to watch that again. Thanks for the donation, Cruella Tongue Punched Me.
I have the best cars, or something like that, or it was, and still is always. I have the best everything. It just assumes his entire personality, his persona. And
no, I mean, we see that.
My partner hates you. Probably because he knows I mog him.
With the biggest crowds, the best economic policy. I mean, I could probably put a montage right here of for 40 minutes of Trump saying he's the best at one thing or another. So yeah. What you're saying is does he really believe he's the best?
That is one of the $64 million questions, but there's this fine line. There's this little bit of a gray area in when is it total BS. And
if the Cleveland show was so funny, then how come it was hated by critics and got bad reviews?
Well, critics are like complete retards. There is no way to know if anything is good anymore because everyone's a retard. It used to be the case where you could fairly reliably rely on audience scores. Now, everyone is such a dumb fuck. Critics are all these weird, woke SJW feminists, and they'll give a movie a bad review if there's a pretty girl in it. Like Alita Battle Angel is one of the best examples of that. Alita Battle Angel was a great fucking movie, especially considering it was an adaptation of a manga/anime. Absolutely fucking fantastic. Like, those do not have a great track record, and especially considering like the kind of genre of film it was, like, that is just god tier. But great movie, lots of fun, pretty girl in it, no woke bullshit. Nice, simple, straightforward story. Lots of good action, great special effects, everything you want. It's not like Oscar worthy anything, but just great movie. Lots of fun. Critics gave it horrible fucking reviews, and their main criticism was there was a girl in it that was too pretty. The audience score was good. So that was a time where you could trust audience reviews. Now, everyone's an idiot. Everyone, like, if a movie's good, like, everybody will give it bad reviews because, the character I liked in it, he died at the end, or, it was boring, there weren't flashing lights constantly, and they don't appreciate things like fucking suspense or pacing or anything. So now, like, everyone's just a fucking idiot, but, yeah, critics, they don't know shit. Like, they're all idiots. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. No, Gummy. No. So, Goku, do tell us, from your point of view, have you ever lost debates? Well, I certainly have. The one that comes to mind in particular is the debate I had on abortion with Avi, where I conceded. Also, what percentage of the human population do you think you're smarter than? A lot. A whole lot. Like, at least 90%. Like, a lot. Now, there are some people who are better than me at, like, math or something, but, I mean, basic, like, if we're just talking about the type of intelligence that people care about, like, not passing some standardized math test, but, like, just critical thinking in general, have to be at least 90%. Thanks for the donation, though, Son Goku.
Who made this?
I'm gonna come.
Do not come.
Should I do it?
Do not come.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna come.
I don't know. Somebody with a good sense of humor. Thanks for the donation, SV.
When is it dementia? And some things, you listen to them and you go, oh, come on. Oh, nope, he's confabulating.
My boyfriend wants to talk to you? Sure.
Nah.
He can come in the chat, ask me to open Discord.
Maybe he is making that up. I mean, just a couple of days ago, the thing with getting bin Laden, where he was, answering some, reporter, and he had to immediately go to, I said we should have gotten bin Laden like a year before, Obama did, and is in my book. In fact, there's like a whole page on it, and etc. Total bullshit. There was nothing on that, and yet that's what immediately comes out. So that raises.
To be fair, though, there are some movies and shows that are way too slow-paced. Like a lot of TV dramas or Christopher Nolan movies.
I wouldn't say Christopher Nolan movies in general are too slow-paced. I would say they're just stupid. So like Inception, or that last Batman movie he made. They're just dumb, bad scripts. He also really likes the PG-13 rating, so a lot of his movies just also end up being lame. I know he made that Dunkirk film. I don't know what the fuck you're thinking when you're making a war movie set in World War II where it's fucking PG-13. Like, there's no blood, nobody gets their limbs blown off. Like, that's just gay. So I think his movies have more of a problem with being, like, dumb and or lame. But thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Raises the question of, is he making that up as he goes? Yeah, and with things like that, there are so many deep feelings about, like, Obama and Biden, that his mind is so obsessed, and a symptom, but that I think he really believes that stuff. I mean, that one, yes, I think he believes it, definitely. But so many of the other things, yes. What's another great example? Oh, when he said about the Air Force, it was like a couple of years ago, the Air Force during the 1812 war, the plane flying overhead and such.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And he would believe that.
Now, okay, so he's confabulating, he's making things up. But you've called him a dementing, malignant narcissist. So narcissists were sort of saying, I thought narcissist was like self-aggrandizing, self-focused. What does malignant mean in this case?
Okay, so if you take the pathological narcissism, in general, like what we said, the self-aggrandizing, the grandiosity, his grandiosity is sort of an extreme example of that. And when you add in, there's what has always been called the dark tetrad of symptoms of pathological narcissism. And adding in the idea of sociopathy, just total non-caring. People often say sociopathy, some say psychopathy. They're used interchangeably these days. So you call him a psychopath, you call him a sociopath. Same thing. He has no empathy, okay, which is one of the other grand symptoms of pathological narcissism. It's a lack of empathy. So you get to malignant narcissism. You add in one more trait that is the sort of overwhelming distinction, and that's the characteristic of sadism, where someone enjoys causing others psychological or physical pain. It's not always physical, it can be psychological, right? One of the best early examples, like in my mind, is like, oh my god, he's disqualified, was back in the last Trump, the last iteration, the rally with that physically challenged reporter that like the arms or something, and he was up there. Trump was up there on stage going, kind of thing. Oh my god,
that was kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily debunked, but that was probably more just something he does. He did a similar kind of movement many other times. Like, people are pointing out that that's not necessarily mocking a disabled reporter. It may have just been wrongfully associated with that. So I don't know.
That's just a form of psychological sadism, right there. I mean, who would do that in the middle of a political rally, except someone who's exhibiting all these symptoms? So something like that, the way that he enjoys getting revenge, being vengeful, throwing people under the bus. He's not saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to let you go." He's thrilled.
He's the guy who says you're fired. Like, he built his whole career, this television career, on firing people. He still likes firing people, likes getting people out of office. The whole Doge thing sort of fits that, right? Doge, where they cut the government, and he just loved the fact that he was firing. And so and I think that maybe more than the actions, it seems to be that you're pointing to almost a level of joy that comes from that.
Yeah, sadism. A true sadist gets a level of pleasure out of doing those things. So it's not, you're right, it's not just the action, it's the enjoyment, it's the reinforcement, the reward, the pleasure that you get out of it. One way of looking at that is that it's kind of an extreme example of what we would call narcissistic supply. So all the adoration, the crowds, all of that is what we call supply. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess probably get this in a little bit, it's sort of like his drug, and he has to have that supply. And in that sense, the sadistic enjoyment is another form of supply. He's really getting his own internal reward from doing that and enjoying it.
Maybe it's about a month ago. Trump was on Air Force One, or whatever his new Trump plane is, and he announced that he had this routine brain scan, right? Which he said that he passed.
Yeah, I've played Nier Automata. That's an awful game. A lot of people talk about that as being some kind of hidden gem or something. It's terrible. Some of the stuff with the combat is kind of interesting. It had some good ideas, but like the overall structure of the game is just fucking awful. Like, the level design is just some of the worst I've ever fucking seen in my entire life.
Probably with the best anyone had ever passed.
And the weird, like, shooting mechanic thing with the, like, melee attacks, it just didn't work. Like, Devil May Cry, I think, is the best game that's combined shooting and like sword play. With that game, it just did not work at all. 2B is hot, but it doesn't make the game worth playing.
Asked this brain scan.
It was the best in history.
Best in history, best brain scan in history, right? But
I look like Prime Overeem now? Well, thank you. I'm trying to get like Kazuya Mishima from Tekken 8. I've been really trying to build up my traps, so I have like just crazy thick ass traps like this, and it's going well. My traps have gotten way fucking bigger.
But observers noted that MRIs are not routine, and they've speculated on the internet that it might have been part of an anti-Alzheimer's protocol. But you wrote this scathing letter on your Substack, which is called the Gaslight Report. Guys, go check it out. That where you said, no, this is wrong. It's not Alzheimer's. It's actually frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. Now, why did you come to that diagnosis? And I think this is going to obviously go back to that dementing part of what you're saying is going on with Trump.
There are several forms of dementia. When people hear the word dementia, they associate it mostly with Alzheimer's because that's the most common. That's what people are used to. Oh, he's got dementia. They usually mean he's got Alzheimer's. He, she, Alzheimer's. Well, okay, maybe, but there are a few forms of dementia. So Alzheimer's should be called Alzheimer's disease. Another, probably the second most common form is frontotemporal dementia. Bruce Willis is a famous person that has a severe form of it. Yeah, so it's not uncommon. And
dude, that was fucked up what happened to Bruce Willis. Holy shit. He literally doesn't even know that he did acting anymore. That is fucked. That would just be nightmarish. If that ever happens to me, I hope somebody just kills me.
The difference between Alzheimer's and FTD is that Alzheimer's over time becomes life diminishing. As you forget things, your life becomes less. It just sort of fades away, right? Well, FTD, unfortunately, in this case, enhances, it augments, it escalates. And because the symptoms of FTD, the main symptoms are like disinhibition. One great way to look at this is you go to your favorite beer joint, whatever it might be. You go and have a beer.
Still waiting for my left lat to heal. I don't know why it's been like a week. Stretching and foam rolling and massage guns have really worked well for me with preventing problems like that. If that persists for a while, though, like more than a couple weeks, you might want to see if you have a labrum tear, because sometimes labrum tears, they can feel like a pain in your lat, like it's your back, but it's actually your shoulder. So you might want to make sure that you have a labrum tear, and the sooner you can get that surgically repaired, the better. Because if you have a labrum tear, it degenerates over time, and you're going to end up with way worse shoulder issues in the future.
Let's say. And okay, people often say, man, after a couple of beers, I get a little looser, a little more social, right? People start talking louder, all of that. Oh, because alcohol is a stimulant. No, alcohol is a depressant. What is depressing is, first, in your frontal cortex, the inhibitory areas that allow you to make good judgments, allow you to plan and think logically. Those are the areas that get hit first. So it's a kind of a double negative. You're inhibiting an inhibitor. So the end result is that you get a plus, you get an augmentation, okay?
Does Ron Jeremy have dementia? Last I heard, he got locked up for like having sex with a child.
That's the same exact thing. So with frontal temporal dementia, it's almost like, here, hold my beer.
Or did he just like rape somebody? Released from jail to a private, secure, undisclosed residence due to rapid deteriorating health, severe dementia. After being declared mentally incompetent to stand trial, all criminal counts against him are dismissed. Previously pleaded not guilty to over 30 counts of sexual assault, including 12 counts of forcible rape involving 23 victims. Well, that's not great.
Wow, so you're basically saying that he's neurologically drunk.
In a sense, you got a point. But he's had way too many, if you want to use that analogy. It is similar. The thing is, though, with alcohol, hopefully you recover the next day. Frontotemporal dementia just gets progressively worse over time.
This could make him more unpredictable. Am I right? Like this is going to make him, I'm thinking about a guy with literally his finger on a nuclear button. Actually, it's in a suitcase now, and controlling the world's armed forces, the most powerful military in the world. You're saying that if it's the same as a drunk, that might not be great.
Again, the analogy holds. And and it's a really good point. There's just this disinhibition that, in this case, like for example, people ask me, what's he going to do next? And I'll say, I'm not a prognosticator. I don't know what he's going to do next. I have an idea of what type of thing he's going to do next. And it will always be sort of an augmentation of what he's been doing. Like the Venezuela thing. You can have all kinds of political explanations, and they exist. I'm not going to deny any of that. But underneath that, 10, 15 years ago, I really doubt that this would happen. I really, really doubt. He wouldn't be standing there, telling Hegseth and whomever, go do this. No, there's enough guardrails. He's got he's got those friends at the bar saying, you've had enough, let's go. Right. But as FTD worsens, those guardrails go away. And they're gone. If you look at his cabinet this round, as opposed to last time, those guardrails are gone, right? So he's kind of, he's basically the most powerful person in the world, right? And he has no guardrails. He could literally say, why did he just go capture Maduro? He didn't nuke Venezuela because that would kind of I guess mess up the oil, and so this was a cleaner strike. But he has the power to do that, and he's getting.
Oh my God. Oh no, he's trapped. Oh no, poor kitty.
When you're 80 you can just ramble incoherently for half an hour about your past and people will just shut the fuck up and listen. Lol, we're beyond Biden levels of senile at this point.
We had in my area in Queens, I grew up in Queens, we had a place called Creedmoor. Creedmoor, did anybody know that? Creedmoor.
Well, the thing is too, Biden can actually remember his childhood. Like, that thing about corn pop was true.
It was I said, Mom, why are those bars on the building? I used to play Little League Baseball there at a place called Cunningham Park. I was quite the baseball player, you wouldn't believe. But I said to my mother, Mom, she would be there, always there for me. She said, son, you could be a professional baseball player. I said, thanks, Mom. I said, why are those bars?
By the way, this is the same guy who dodged the Vietnam draft by claiming he had bone spurs in his ankles.
On the windows. Big building, big, powerful building. It loomed over the park, actually. She said, well, people that are very sick are in that building. I said, boy, I used to always look at that building and I'd see this big building, big, tall building. It loomed over the park. It was sort of, now that I think it was a pretty unfriendly sight. But I'll never forget, I don't know if it's still there, because they got rid of most of them, the Democrats in New York, they took them down and the people live on the streets now. That's why you have a lot of the people in California and other places, they live in the streets. They took the mental institutions down, they're expensive. But I'd say, why does that building have those bars? Boy, it wasn't normal. You're used to looking at like a window. But this one, you look at it, all this steel, vicious steel, tiny windows, bars all over the place. Nobody was getting out. It's called a mental institution. That was
Yeah. This guy is cracked. Thanks for the donation, retard. ABC donated $3. Let me see. Oh. Press crow to crow. Oh my god. I'm gonna try to make friends with crows this summer. There's a lot of crows in my neighborhood, and apparently you can make friends with them. I'm gonna see, read online about that. Thanks for the donation, ABC.
Disinhibited over time, and we're seeing more severe actions over time. So we don't know exactly what he'll do, but we know it's going to be more.
So you've seen perhaps these books that have been written, and I can't remember its title or author, but the idea is that at the top of the corporate food chain in the world, you have psychopaths and narcissists tend to rise, or at least they're overrepresented in the sort of leadership structure of corporate America. I guess the first question I have, do you think that's generally a real phenomenon, or is that sort of just pop psychology?
Oh, I think it's a real phenomenon. Absolutely. Investors often look for people with narcissistic traits. because yes, they do make good leaders. They're confident. They'll make those decisions. Oh, we ought to move forward. Let's do this deal. Those go for it. They'll make the tough decisions with less empathy. And, and that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to.
But when you get to the level of like a corporate raider, right? When you have these malignant narcissists at the heads of organizations, what happens to the organization and what happens to the people who work? Like, how do decisions get made in these organizations?
To be fair, that new Sam Raimi film, Send Help, looks good.
I'm going to be frank with you. You are smart. I know that you are great with numbers, but I just don't think you got it. As an executive, I see no value in you. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, what?
You know we have the Bangkok merger coming up. Prove me wrong. Oh, Linda, before you go, I forgot to mention I've received a few complaints about you.
Complaints?
Noxious odors.
Oh, God.
Take your seats, you're a little bitch.
Look who's joined the land of the living.
How long?
You been out? Day and a half?
Have you tried making a distress signal? Or a bigger fire?
I was busy trying to keep us.
If that ever happened to me and I was in a plane with somebody I didn't like, I'd drag them into the water and suffocate them to death. Why wouldn't you kill them? You're like, who's gonna know?
Live.
But getting us out of here, that should be your focus, not being Susie Homemaker over here.
What did you just say to me?
Let's not forget, I'm your boss. You work for me.
We're not in the office anymore, Bradley. No help is coming.
Like, this guy is nothing but a liability, too. He's injured.
You just have to accept that this is how things are now. You ever hunt? I think I like it. You are stuck with an asshole boss. Just like I was. Although I'm betting I am a much nicer boss than you ever would have been. Except for maybe this part. I don't think we should ever leave.
That could be good. Looks a little stupid, but I'll reserve judgment till I see it. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Crows make better friends than most people. I wish I had crows around to make friends with.
Yeah, true. Thanks for the donation, ABC.
It's from the lieutenants and the level right below.
Well, look at Trump as an example, as a poster child. What happens? It's his. If it's his decision, it's about him. When is it ever about the country first? January 6th is an ultimate example, right? Well, it's always about him. And what people don't realize is that these companies will often fail. Some of them get so big, so good, they cruise along and et cetera. But smaller companies, smaller programs, whether it's a program in a department or in a company or the company or anything like that, run by a pathological narcissist.
Yeah, I never found that girl hot. I always thought she kind of looked like a weird granny.
Bet you with dimes of dollars or something that it will fail, because ultimately when a decision has to be made, the decision is going to be one of self-interest and not entity interest. And obviously that's a big problem, because they'll make decisions good for them, bad for the entity.
Yeah, and one great example of this would, so we're living in a time of existential danger with climate change, for instance. And one thing that's so baffling is that basically the whole world agreed that climate change was happening, but Trump had come out with this anti-climate change agenda and policy, gutting scientific programs and such. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, at least to me, to do that. Do you have an explanation for why that sort of activity would occur with Trump?
Specifically that particular issue.
Wow, that is a very large rock. That is the largest rock I have ever found in my food. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is a very large rock. Glad I didn't bite down on that.
Issue like climate change, it's hard to wrap that as a specific issue. More broadly speaking, let's say it also relates to something like Venezuela. That has an oil component to it, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to not see that. And I think, and I hate to do I think because I don't really just like opinions, but I guess my somewhat informed from a narcissism point of view opinion would be that the climate change issue is, in one sense, just one, a bit of going along with, making friends with, etc., that side of the industry, like the petroleum industry, that it's great for making him more money and making his pals more money, at that level. So I think there's that component to it.
Could it also be that if he calls it a hoax, he sets himself up as the expert who knows what reality really is?
Sure. And to go right into that, he has to be the best. He has to know more. So he can call it a hoax because that allows him then to be the best. You're exactly right where you're going with that. Yeah. So calling something a hoax instantly demeans it. And the point is not even necessarily to negate it as much as it is to demean it. Okay, from a narcissism perspective. It's not, politically or whatever, it may be trying to get rid of it, but that's not really even his point. His point is one of demeaning it so that he's better. Because he's not, but that's a way of him becoming.
And you're saying that he has, a word that you used earlier was confabulation. Like one of the things that Trump does is confabulate. What does that mean?
Confabulation. There's a little part in the front of your brain, the frontal cortex, that regulates, controls, allows you to understand where you are and when you are. I mean, it's controlled other parts of the brain too, but there's this part in the front and where these memories are attached to. So for example, that you're sitting in that chair. You're aware of that. And we never think of these things, right? Like, how often do you examine yourself to say, where am I sitting? When am I sitting? Anything like that. But obviously you are. The ability to connect this event and that event and fill in those gaps with reality starts to go away. It's part of the disinhibition, part of the tissue damage. And you start to connect things that aren't actually connected in time and place. So that's why he can put forward something like, jet planes, fighter planes flying overhead in the War of 1812, things like that. It's not that either of those is false. They're not false memories of reality, but putting them together as a singular event is a confabulation of distorting the reality.
Would this be similar to when he talks about numbers, for instance? I just heard an NPR segment today where he was talking about the lowering of drug prices, right? And he said that we've lowered them 92%, and the next day he said 95%, and then 92.8%, and then his numbers went all around, and then eventually he said we've lowered it 1,500%, which would actually make drug companies pay you. Is this an example of confabulation? What is going on in his brain when he says stuff like this?
Math. He just doesn't do math.
I was just going to ask you, did he ever get over 100%? He was saying 92, 95. So he went to 1,500 again. He said it again. See, he believes this. He has no idea what it means. And
he doesn't know what percentages are.
You mean Rachel McAdams? The woman from all those romantic comedies from the 2000s like The Notebook, The Time Traveler's Wife, About Time, The Vow, and, more recently, the Marvel movie Doctor Strange.
Was she in Doctor Strange? Yeah, her. I've always thought she looked like a grandma. Even when she was younger, I always thought she had this grandmother look to her. Am I crazy, or does she not look like a granny? I don't know, just something about it, the way she does her hair, just her facial features. Always thought she looked like a grandma. I never understood why anyone found her attractive. Just always seemed like a nice looking old lady, but just not someone who's actually pretty and attractive. Thanks for the donation though, Dodo.
impossible. So yes, it's making things up that there's not a reality to it.
I don't hate Star Wars. I hate modern Star Wars movies and shows. They're just all terrible, and it's because they're being produced by women and just crazy lefty retards. Some of the games have been great, like the Battlefront series. Some of them have been a little weird, like that first Star Wars game with the Jedi. What was it? Jedi something. Not Survivor, but Fallen Order. The reason Fallen Order sucked was because Disney executives are retarded dumbass pussies who don't understand what Star Wars is, and they tried to make the game fit their family-friendly, girly, gay horseshit. So they told them you can't have any decapitation or dismemberment in the game. And they also instructed them to reduce the amount of human enemies in the game. So you rarely ever fought stormtroopers. It was all like large alien insects and robots. This game was not very good. Jedi Survivor was much better. Basically all the issues of the first game they improved, where primarily you were either fighting human enemies or humanoid enemies. They brought back dismemberment and shit in the game. The level design was generally better too. The only problem with this game was that it was optimized just horribly. Like, you need a beast computer to actually run this pretty well.
But where he generally believes mistakenly that can be the case, and that again it ties in with the we're the best. I'm not even we. Sorry, I'm the best at this.
I think if I was in the Star Wars universe and I had to have be a Jedi of some sort.
Song request.
All right, I will sing this for you. Thanks for the donation, dude. I don't think I'd be a Jedi Knight or a Sith Lord. I think both of them are gay, weird fucktards. Sith Lords are I don't even know what the fuck they're really doing. I guess they're sort of fascist totalitarians, but I don't even know what the fuck they want. And Jedi Knights are just fucking gay dorks. So I wouldn't be either. I guess I'd be the equivalent of a Ronin or something in that universe, where I'd just do my own thing and not follow the Jedi Academy and not follow the Sith Lords, and I'd probably kill Sith Lords, and I guess I'd just not promote the Jedi way, which is just this weird pseudo-pacifist dork shit where you can't have sex with women. Sid donated $2. Bro, why do so many girls have depression? They just bring you down with their mood all the time, too. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because women have absolutely no accountability, and they have no real hobbies or interests. Their interests are basically their relationships. And that just creates a situation where women are kind of more emotional in general, but because there's no accountability placed on them and they don't even have anything to distract them with daily life, very few women actually give two fucks about their work or careers. They're not really thinking of making a fuck ton of money, driving fast cars, fucking dudes or women or anything. They're not into Warhammer 40k, video games. They're only focused on their relationships, and they just end up being these unhinged fucking wackos that are miserable all the time. Because, there's nothing in their life that would make them learn emotional control or would incidentally give them some form of emotional control by just distracting them with something they enjoy. So that's why. Thanks for the donation, though, Sid. And to make things worse, when women do try to get mental health counseling has turned into validating every single stupid, nonsensical idea you have and giving you an excuse for your behavior, rather than telling you you're an asshole and you need to think differently and do things differently. Oh, you have autism, you have PTSD, you have this or that. So, it's just normal for you to act this way. And if anybody tells you you need to behave yourself, well, you just tell them that you're being discriminated against because of your autism or some bullshit. And you'll see thousands and thousands and thousands of fucking videos where women talk about having autism or PTSD or ADHD or bipolar disorder when they don't have that. They just have poor emotional regulation. They don't know how to control themselves, and they have no fucking accountability. And even when they get mental health counseling, the mental health counseling is designed to further give them less accountability and teaches them to justify their shitty behavior and actions and try to guilt people into trying to correct their behavior. So that's why most women are like depressed and psychotic and shit. Thanks for the donation, though, Sid. All right, let's just sing this. I gotta rinse my ears out with a song that isn't gay. Much better.
At least that new Sam Raimi movie, Send Help, won't be affected by Disney, though, despite their ownership of Fox. Seeing how the Avatar movies were not Disney-fied, once they bought Fox.
Yeah. Disney used to make some films that were more adult, like that's why they had Touchstone Pictures, but their whole corporate structure is just infected with retarded feminists. So it's those days are long gone, dude. Thanks for the donation though, Dodo.
For woman, being emotionally intelligent means you are good at emotionally manipulating people. Also a case of the woman was just trying to be manipulative. This is what they do.
Yeah. You know, this is, I'll be honest.
The only way to confirm a labrum tear is, I think, with an MRI. I don't know if you can ultrasound to confirm it. I'm not sure if it would show up on an X-ray either. Like, it's... I would highly, highly recommend getting surgery if you do have a labrum tear, because, again, they typically degenerate, and you're going to end up having way worse fucking shoulder problems later if you don't get it repaired.
Honest, it feels incredible. Yeah. You know, this is the dream of a lifetime. And we've always wanted to build a city government that moves as fast as New Yorkers do. You know, when a New Yorker's trying to walk somewhere, you don't get in their way. Right. City government, it hasn't felt like that for a long time. So we've wanted to say that there's not going to be any problem too big or too small for us to address. So day one, we put bad landlords on notice right after that inauguration speech. You know, day 6, we fixed a bump on the Williamsburg Bridge. Day 8, we announced more than $1 billion in funding for universal child care.
That was a huge bump, by the way.
And all that money is going to be stolen by people who are just exploiting the system, and it's not going to be put towards anything actually productive and useful, like improving the city's infrastructure, like the crumbling fucking subway system, shit like that.
That was a huge bump.
Where's that money coming from?
That's coming from the state. And what that...
Like, what's kind of strange, too, is they had to remove a fuck ton of funding from public schools. And they're not able to, like, fix their subway system. And then they're talking about putting $1 billion into free childcare? Like, how about you make money and raise your own fucking kids? It's just retarded.
Does is it allows us to fix universal childcare for 3-year-olds and deliver it for 2-year-olds. We actually have a mother in the audience, Mallory, who is here with us and who, when the announcement was made, texted her husband to say it might be time for a second kid. And I think so often we think that these are decisions families are making on their own, but really we're giving them no choice when we say that childcare costs $25,000, $26,000 a year. Now it's something that they can actually get for free. Right.
How about make more money before you have more kids? Jeez. By the way, I think this whole childcare thing is just some retarded, like, first world bullshit. We have, like, this strange idea that kids can't take care of themselves. They're fucking retarded. If they go out anywhere, they're gonna get, like, kidnapped and raped or something. My mom left me at home when I was very young by myself fairly frequently. Like, my grandparents, like, were at home, but, like, they were working when I was really young. And sometimes they'd be gone. And I remember when I was, like, 5 or 6, I'd be left alone. Like, yeah, when you have an infant, somebody has to always be there. By the time a kid can walk, I don't, like, they know how to use the TV. They can, like, you can leave snacks out for them, like some carrots or something. If they're hungry, have some water bottles around. Like, they can probably use the bathroom on their own. I mean, what's the fucking big deal? It's first world horseshit, is what I'm saying. We have this, like, stupid idea where even, like, 10-year-olds need to be accompanied by an adult at all times, and if they're ever left alone at home, like, you're fucked. It's like, it's just fucking stupid. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Vegan cocksucker donate $2. Vegan Gain saying to look up a vid of Ryan Macbeth that supports that there's Chinese missiles in Venezuela, and the first thing it says in the timestamp is, I'm not saying it's confirmed Chinese missiles in Venezuela right now, immediately has me dying. There's a lot of defense and intelligence experts saying that there are, in all likelihood, ballistic missile systems in Venezuela. And regardless, they do have air defense missiles. And they're Chinese and Russian made. So if China wanted to take control of the Panama Canal, that's a huge issue. That's what he said that in the fucking debate, by the way.
Overnight on January 3rd, 2026, the United States conducted strikes in Venezuela, games and propaganda on hot takes. The bot farms are going crazy, and on Audible, I want to get on the next plane to Russia once one becomes available. And Reuters reported that Congress was not notified beforehand, at least according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So is this about oil? Stability.
We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect
part of the speech.
We want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability.
Removing Maduro from power.
So Destiny doesn't even know. So I should have mentioned this. So Trump did mention this wasn't just about oil. This was also about national defense. It just wasn't, like, people are just hanging on to the oil thing.
Power has nothing to do with Venezuela and everything to do with China and Taiwan. The scarier oil story is about U.S. oil infrastructure. Texas alone accounts for about 43% of U.S. crude oil production and about 31% of U.S. refining capacity. And a lot of that refining and export and chemical infrastructure sits right on the Gulf Coast. So here's a question. What happens in a future crisis when a hostile power can hold the Gulf Coast at risk with a long-range precision strike? I think this conflict is really about China. And I'm going to say the quiet part out loud here. I don't think Washington did this because it woke up one day and decided it really cares about democracy in Caracas. And I don't think it was just about drugs either, although the indictment is very explicit about drugs. I think this is a hemispheric security move, and the strategic pacing threat behind it is China. China's competition with the U.S. isn't only in the South China Sea. It's about positioning, basing, dual-use infrastructure, and access, including access in Latin America. Reuters reported that China's CELAC, or Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, trade hit $551 billion in 2024. And a major development here is that Venezuela accounted for the largest share, about 44% of China's total development finance in the region since 2005. This was before Chinese policy banks stopped lending to Venezuela, which I think was in 2016. So Venezuela matters in the big game even when it's not in the headlines. Chinese missiles in Venezuela and why the Gulf Coast matters is kind of going to be the next subject here. Let me be very careful. I'm not saying that there are confirmed Chinese missiles units in Venezuela right now. What I am saying is if China ever got to basing bombers or missiles, ISR, intelligence surveillance reconnaissance, anything long range in Venezuela, that's close enough to be a real problem. Range rings, like from northern Venezuela to the Gulf Coast, we're talking about 3,300 kilometers from Houston to the Panama Canal area. It's around 1,100 kilometers or so. That means that any future adversary with intermediate range capability could potentially threaten the Gulf Coast with its refineries.
Okay, there you go. So he did basically say that, but again, why would you want China and Venezuela when they've already installed surface-to-air missile systems? They absolutely would be interested in installing in intermediate range, like ballistic missile systems. And there's historical precedents for this too. Like there's the Cuban Missile Crisis, like the Soviet Union's done shit like that before, so. Dodo, $22, let me see. Well, this is gonna be stupid.
Medea, why do you think people should go see this movie?
They should see this movie because they'll never ask why October 7th happened. They'll ask...
Wow. Okay, so they're not even, like, mask off. October 7th was justified.
Why has the world allowed the Israelis to get away with this for so many decades?
Die of a fucking stroke, fucking cunt. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Song requests, Roaring Thunder and Something More by Daniel Larson.
It's been a long time, never thought this would be. You always been mine, but I have to be free. Golden sunsets, reflections on the sea, a reminder of what used to be. Roaring thunder, everything changes, but love remains. My heart and soul longs for that again. Knowing I'm home, where I belong.
This is surprisingly not...
Heartache lingers.
Like, this is better than Jason Genova. You know? And Larson's a bigger retard than Genova. I'll be fair, he's a better singer than me.
10,000 miles away, it's a new day. My heart beating alone. Will you catch me if
I was like actually surprised. I thought that was going to be just horrific, but considering he's a much bigger retard than Jason Genova, that was surprisingly good. Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy.
Yeah, but at least the movies released under Fox, like Avatar or that Send Help movie, have not been affected by them, at least not yet anyway.
Yeah. I think, the whole, narrative that these people have where everything has to be feminized and dumbed down. Like, nobody's watching crap like that anymore. Like, they're not making money, so things have to end up going in the right direction at some point when none of these people are able to make the kind of cash they were off these movies. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Kid Boo donated $2 base. Let me see.
Where are the thousands of people who protested on the streets for Palestinian? Why aren't they protesting now that Iranians are being executed by their government seeking the liberties that we have? I can tell you why. Because the protesters only care if the Jews are doing something. And that's a harsh reality, because when Muslims are killing Muslims, they don't give a flying frick, right? And for some reason, the woke liberals don't want to protest Muslims. If Iran falls, Hamas falls, Hezbollah falls. If Hamas falls, then the Palestinian Authority will not be controlled by a terrorist organization that ruins the lives of Palestinians. And then the Palestinians can finally work with the Israelis and build a society that's peaceful. Our media is barely covering what's going on in Iran. I don't understand why people aren't speaking up for the wonderful Persian people. My wish is that the son of the Shah, the prince, comes back to Iran, because Iran used to be a modern society where women didn't have to wear hijabs, where business was booming. The Persians that we know around the world are business people. They have a rich culture. They're beautiful. They're entertaining. They're hilarious. They're hardworking. The country
They got some hot ass bitches too.
is now controlled by religious lunatics who are living in prehistoric times, and nobody is talking about it. And from that base in Iran, they are fostering terrorism.
All these fucking crazy people that are protesting Israel and, the pro-Palestine fucktards, they're motivated by two things: killing Jews or making money. And a lot of these people are paid protesters, like the Code Pink. They're supported by China and Iran and probably Qatar. If nobody was giving them any money, they wouldn't be doing any of this shit. They literally do not fucking care. Same with Greta Thunberg. And yeah, the rest are just Jew haters. That's all there is to it.
In the whole region, if Iran falls, that region.
Yep. Thanks for the donation, Kid Boo.
Agreed, VG. Baby sea turtles don't need their parents to take care of themselves, so why children?
Yeah, I mean, if baby sea turtles can do just fine on their own, I don't know why the fuck we need childcare. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
BTW, I would never pay money to go see a film that promotes Nazism. Like October 7th, and shame on Code Pink for promoting it.
They should all be locked in jail. They're being funded by, nations that are hostile to the United States, and they're promoting, Chinese and jihadist propaganda. Like, it should be illegal what they're doing. So, yeah, they should all be locked up. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Kid Boo donated $2. Let me see.
Greater cult than the Pilates girl cult, because you can make a simple statement and just say Pilates doesn't build muscle, and they come coming at you hard in the comment section with their pitchforks. They'll come in hot and say, stop demonizing Pilates, it's still a great form of movement, people should still do it. I never said that Pilates is a bad form of movement. I simply said 4 words: Pilates doesn't build muscle. Don't put words in my mouth. I never said Pilates is bad. I'm simply just stating a fact. Like, butter is high in calories. That's not me saying butter is unhealthy.
Women do not want to work hard. That's all there is to it. They do not want to lift heavy weights and feel uncomfortable, especially like, you know, lifts like heavy barbell squats where it kind of feels like you're getting buried and you have to get used to it. Women just don't want to lift weights. That's why there's these dumb fucking women promoting Pilates and yoga and shit. It's because it's easy and it does nothing. You even see dudes in the gym kind of do the same thing. You'll see dudes who won't lift heavy. They'll only use machines. And when they do use machines, again, they're not training to failure. And they do like weird, stupid exercises a lot of the time that like they literally invented and nobody does. So like there's just a subset of people that's primarily women, but even there's some beta male dudes who do this shit too. Like, it's the science-based lifting faggots that you see a lot. You'll see these tiny beta male twinks saying squats and deadlifts are bad for building muscle. Or, like, stop bench pressing to build your chest. Do this instead. And it's some, like, super stupid lightweight exercise with a ridiculous range of fucking motion. And it, like, and they're these pencil neck fucking twinks. So, yeah, there's just a lot of pussies who don't want to fucking lift. Thanks for the donation, though, Kid Boo. See, Dodo donated $2. Jeez. Well, Rush ain't doing too well.
Yes, go ahead. Ma'am, go ahead. With the blue, holding the computer.
If a consequence of your determination to take control of Greenland is the ultimate breakup of the NATO alliance, is that a price you're willing to pay?
You mean the breakup of it's very
the
interesting
NATO
question.
alliance?
So I think something's going to happen that's going to be very good for everybody. Nobody's done more for NATO than I have, as I said before, in every way. Getting them to go up to 5% of GDP was something that nobody thought was possible, and pay. At 2%, they weren't paying. At 5%, they are paying. And they're buying a lot of things from us, and they're giving them, I guess, to Ukraine. That's up to them, but they're giving them to whoever they're giving them to, but they're buying a lot. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security.
He's right about that. It's just that he's a fucking retard. Like, this was at one point, you know, a nation that we had good relations with. He could have just, like, been friendly and agreed to, you know, a defense agreement with no issues, no pushback whatsoever. But because this guy's retarded, we might invade Greenland. If you're against us invading Greenland, we're gonna tariff you. Like, he's probably not going, like, well, he's not gonna invade Greenland. I'm skeptical of the tariff thing. He probably was thinking of doing it just because anyway. But yeah, he's a fucking retard. But he is right. Like, the US should have a very strong military presence around Greenland. Based. Let me see.
But the genocide
where are the members of the Democratic Party protesting and wearing pins for the protesters in Iran who are getting mowed down, maybe by the tens of thousands this week?
Well, I know where I am. I put out a pretty clear statement this week, and
I'd like to see more Democrats.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And by the way, I also thought I thought it was the right thing to do, that strike, and I thought it was unbelievably effective and efficient, and had no problem saying that during the strike. Didn't wait for the outcome. So yeah, I marched to a beat of a little bit of a different drum, a little bit more nuance here. But there is, everything's so black and white. There's nuance here. I mean,
for sure. But I think that the point that I'm making, get back to sort of where we originally departed here, was that, you know, I'm trying to call out what I see as bad behavior, untrue, immoral behavior on my own side. I'd like to see that more from a Democratic Party that seemed to be perfectly willing to wrap an arm around Zohran Mamdani the minute he got a little bit of momentum.
Yeah.
You know, the same man who had said that whenever the NYPD boot is on the throat of Americans.
Yeah, dude, the Democratic Party is infested with fucking communists.
And the IDF is lacing the boot. You know, that sort of nonsense is terrible.
No, I don't associate with those comments at all. I mean, and look, he doesn't speak for me in that
Should Mamdani be the mayor of New York?
That's up for people in New York to make that decision. That's not for me to out here in California, thousands of miles away.
You don't believe President Trump should be president? The American people decided he should.
Well, that directly impacts me. I mean, New York may indirectly, but I mean, it's a little bit of a different question. We'll see how he ultimately does. I thought he ran an incredibly effective campaign. I think there's a lot of interesting attributes that he has. Incredibly bright, incredibly capable. He's delivered some early.
There are a lot of terrible people who say bright and capable things.
No, I get it, but and I absolutely disagree with him on a lot of those comments. And I also maintained that posture pretty consistently over a long period of time. And no, I was not a Cuomo fan. So just for the record, and sorry,
as it turns out, there weren't a lot of Cuomo fans.
And I say this with respect. I mean, the Cuomo family is a good Democrat. His father, and there's some members of the family I like a lot. But look, these are tougher issues, and they are tough issues. And I appreciate your willingness to call balls and strikes. And a lot of folks, frankly, a lot of folks in your world, as we sort of castigate the right-wing media ecosystem, your willingness to call this stuff out. And
I think that in general, this is the way, if we want to have a way forward in American politics, just to get a little general here, it has to be predicated on certain basic premises about truth. And that's why I keep saying.
It's funny how Ben Shapiro is one of the most sensible political commentators at this point. It's fucking crazy. Iranian chess player Dorsa Dirkshani was given an ultimatum by the Islamic regime: wear the job or you're banned from competing. She didn't just refuse, she joined the U.S. team, became a chess grandmaster world champion, recently started medical school. That was definitely the right decision. Based. Insane.
I've lost everything.
While Bach's attorney provided this video showing stacks of food, prosecutors say Bach and the businesses she recruited stole tens of millions of federal dollars, spending it on luxury cars, real estate ventures, and vacations.
I wish I could go back and do things differently, stop things, catch things. At that point in time, I believed we were doing everything in our power to protect the program.
But in 2021, Bach sued the state agency that oversaw the meal program, alleging its scrutiny of Somali applicants was, quote, discriminatory. How do you think state officials took that?
Nobody wants to be labeled as being racist.
Minnesota officials told a state watchdog the threat of legal consequences and negative media attention intimidated them into easing off.
The notion that a state government is paralyzed and has to allow this level of fraud because they were afraid of what I might do in a lawsuit is preposterous.
Help me welcome Amy Bach.
In Minnesota's large Somali community, one leader called her a modern-day Robin Hood.
The community deserves this. The children need this.
In 2019, the nonprofit submitted $3 million worth of meal claims. 2 years later, it submitted nearly 200.
Dude, how was this allowed to go on for this long? Are you kidding me? Like, this is obviously fraud.
$1 million.
All of a sudden, you're cutting $200 million worth of checks. How do you not
There's no chance. This woman's a fucking liar.
see that as major red
And no
flags
shit, she's
and keep this
convicted.
going?
We relied on the state. We told the state, this site is going to operate at this address, this day, this time, and this number of children. The state would then tell us that's approved.
Prosecutors also accused Bach of collecting bribes and kickbacks from meal site operators. At trial, they revealed text messages where she compared feeding our future to the mob.
Are you a mob boss?
Yeah, this woman's a manipulative fucking psycho.
Absolutely not. No.
Were you personally benefiting from any of it?
I collected my salary, and that was all that was.
Yeah, sure. That is crazy. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Dodo Donatillers, you missed my other link in comment in my dono after I sent you the code Pink Dono. Read that. It was the one where I mentioned why Iran regime keeps surviving. My bad. Seems the main reason the Iran regime has not collapsed through all these protests over the years is because there are very few defections in the IRGC. Does seem to need outside intervention.
Protests in Iran.
Okay, we can take a look at that later. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Ben Boy Donatillers, did you see this? What the actual fuck? Let me see. Yeah, I've seen that, dude. 1 billion people have sent me that. What do you
everybody,
expect?
welcome or welcome.
It's fucking Sneeko. Thanks for the donation, though, dude.
The clock is officially ticking for gun owners in Canada, as they now have until the end of March to either be compensated if they own a banned firearm or permanently deactivate those weapons. Members of the federal government say the program is designed to get dangerous types of guns off the streets.
The only reason they're doing this is to distract from their political failings. It's the only reason. This whole thing is just a complete fucking joke.
Themselves would agree that
I cannot fucking express in words my absolute vitriol and hatred for the liberal government. Every single fucking one of them should be wiped off the face of the fucking planet. Send those fuckers to the moon. Like, these are the most dishonest, corrupt, lying fucking pieces of shit in fucking politics. Like, my God. The reason they just suddenly started pushing hard for this gun confiscation thing, even though it's proven to, like, not be effective, not work, not do anything, there's going to be cost overruns, they can't even do it, is because Justin Trudeau was found guilty, and the Liberal Party's decision to enact the Insurrection Act, or not the Insurrection Act, the Emergencies Act, was unlawful. Then suddenly, to draw attention away from that, oh yeah, gun buyback, we're gonna force it now, yeah, media conference, yeah, you have until like a few months to hand in your guns or else. I hate the fucking Liberal Party, and there's no reason for this. Gun violence has fucking doubled under their fucking leadership, because they keep letting fucking criminals out of fucking prison. There has been a massive increase in fucking shootings and violent home invasions. And what is their response to this? Let's ban all the fucking guns so you're even more fucked. We're going to let everyone out of prison, and we're going to take away your fucking guns. These people are the most fucking useless, worthless fucking scumbags that are deliberately trying to destroy the fucking country. And again, under the Liberal leadership, they've massively increased housing costs, not only like just to buy a home, but even for rent, because a lot of that has to do with their immigration policies. It's all fraud and scams. They're literally paying broke-ass, uneducated fucking retards to come to the country. They're giving them free housing, free food, free utilities, free healthcare, everything. They don't even have to fucking work. And they're making it impossible to get a fucking job anywhere. Everyone is just hiring retarded, useless fucking immigrants that they can pay fucking peanuts, and give absolutely no benefits to. And housing costs are through the fucking roof. Nobody can even fucking afford to rent anything anywhere. Like, fuck. And then these fucking idiots voted them in again. Like, it is just the most psychotic. Like, what world are we fucking living in where, like, I have to deal with all these fucking retards voting in the fucking liberals? Like, this is why democracy doesn't work. You have a nation of fucking retards who don't know what's good for them, and they vote in the fucking people who are ruining their fucking lives.
getting military-style assault weapons off our streets is something that...
There was never any military-style assault weapons being used to commit any fucking crimes, and the fucking... You can look at the weapons that are on the ban list. Most of them are not military-style. They banned big bore fucking hunting rifles from the 1800s that are collector's items. That's a military-style assault weapon? Fuck you. You fucking blind, one-eyed fuck. You can't even shoot a gun. Fuck you.
We should always be cognizant of and the danger it poses to the general public.
This guy needs to get his nuts kicked in. Just stomp that fucker in the fucking nuts, you fucking pussy-ass bitch. Fuck you, you fucktard.
But CTV News talked to the owner of Cash Tactical Supply, Aaron Strauss, who was singing a different tune. He says the program does nothing but take firearms away from responsible gun owners and does nothing to curb the spread of illegal guns in the country.
It will have absolutely no...
All of the illegal firearms, and I mean like damn near 100%, like it's right at the 99% mark, are smuggled in from the United States. That's where all the fucking illegal firearms that are being used by organized crime. So what does this do? And again, these are all handguns. They're not these long fucking rifles.
Impact on public safety because every firearms owner has to be vetted by the RCMP through the PAL system before they're ever allowed to buy a firearm. And that system works.
Ugh, dude, once I get my godlike powers and I can like shoot laser beams out of my eyes, fly at Mach speed, like crush buildings with my bare hands, there will be a reckoning. Dodo, $22, read and respond to comments for 3 minutes. Also, did you notice that he showed your full picture when you hammered it in him? You can skip to that part. I'm not gonna do any debates ever again. Oh, yes.
Beth says that they have ballistic missile systems.
So it's one of his latest videos where he talks about the Venezuelan invasion. It's like one of his last few uploads.
Okay, you don't know what you're talking about? Once you've learned a little bit about literally...
Game. We're not playing that game. So you're trying to strawman me. Okay. Where did he...
Not good. But when you have that, are fine with us deposing foreign leaders just because we don't like who they work with. No prayer. Believe is
well,
not with. We should invade the sacred... Some saying reach the United States of America.
No, you don't.
Okay, then give me the missile. Give me the missile. What is it?
Okay, did anybody in the comments leave a timestamp? The Greenland situation.
Perfect.
I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand the Greenland thing. So Trump is too stupid to find Greenland on a map. He doesn't know what the hell it is. The reason right at the border. Where did he talk about? Where did he show my Instagram photo? I literally... Was it at the beginning? Jesus. There we go. He only showed my face. And we all know the reason he didn't do that is because if people saw what I looked like with my godlike fucking physique, nobody would fucking take you seriously. There we go. All right. Well, thanks for the donation, Dodo. At least he uploaded it.
Sadly, the Democratic Party in the US is becoming much like the Canadian Liberal politicians, but hopefully Gavin Newsom of all people will save us from that, because he seems to be one of the only ones not completely pandering to the far left, etc.
He's still a retarded anti-gun faggot. It just drives me fucking nuts. of all the things that is like the biggest political pet peeve of mine, the gun banning shit has to be like at the very top of the fucking list. It makes no fucking rational, logical fucking sense. There's already so much historical precedence with this, with gun bans not doing fucking anything. They all know it does nothing, and it only actually empowers organized crime. Cross-culturally, you see this when gun bans are put into place. You actually see an increase in firearms violence. It's only when you increase mandatory minimum sentencing that you see a reduction in gun violence. So the logical thing to do is to just impose harsher sentencing for people who, unlawfully use a weapon. So it frustrates the ever-living fuck out of me. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. Dodo donated $2. If you point this out to Destiny, he would say, wow, this is one article is your proof. Members of New York Zoran Mamdani's Democratic Socialists of America being cultivating ties with officials of the Chinese Communist Party and agreeing to take pro-Chinese positions according to extensive minutes of internal meetings seen by Newsweek. Why am I not surprised? Participants discussing contacts with officials from China ruling party in the name of anti-imperialism, with some members saying the organization should avoid topics that are sensitive for Beijing, such as China's threats to invade Taiwan, security crackdown in Hong Kong, and abuses of the Uyghur Muslim minority. They also discussed visits to China. Chinese officials did not take part in the meetings themselves, but met with members in China and discouraged the DSA to set up exchanges according to the minutes. Wow. Yeah. Why am I not fucking surprised? And I mean, these people literally flat out admit to being full-on communist too. Like, if anything will ensure a Donald Trump third term is more shit like that in the Democratic Party. I would much rather have a Trump third term than have a Democratic Party run by the fucking Chinese Communist Party.
Go ahead and say it. Elon Musk should never be able to donate a single penny to any political campaign ever again. We have some breaking news that more people need to be talking about, because it turns out Elon Musk and his Doge goons seem to have been the one committing the fraud that they were talking about this entire time. A new court filing alleges that two Doge personnel who were overseen by Elon Musk at the time were siphoning data from the SSA, from the Social Security Administration, and then giving that data to a voter advocacy group that claims the election was rigged from Trump and was looking to match voter data rolls in order to flip their election results back. This is some insane fraud coming from the organization that was meant to detect some sort of fraud.
Why isn't Elon Musk in jail? Oh, right.
Musk has been saying that immigrants and Somali...
It's hilarious how you have an African immigrant who stole Social Security data, and this guy isn't, at the very least, deported. Fuck me. That's nuts. Newsom got schooled a bit here, but seems he understood at least. Let me see.
Drag some run with, flags waving into the conversation.
This notion of genocide.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Israel did not commit a genocide in Gaza. There's no standard by which Israel committed a genocide in Gaza, just on a factual level.
Just as a legal and factual level.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your opinion of this?
My opinion is, I understand the tendency for people to make that, to assert that.
Why?
On the basis of the images and
chances are tens of thousands of protesters have been gunned down in Iran. None of them are saying shit about a genocide or even talking about it at all. And then these people literally, even before Israeli invaded, were saying, oh, Israeli genocide. Like this is just anti-Semitism, clearly. Like, the fact that he isn't like, yeah, I agree. It's... politicians have no spine, especially Democratic politicians. They have absolutely no spine.
And the proportionality.
doesn't mean genocide.
No. And by the way, I agree with you.
And international and proportionality doesn't mean that if you kill my child and I then kill 7 criminals, that I've been disproportionate.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think but I understand that tendency on the basis of trying to reconcile the proportionate nature of how the war was ultimately conducted and the devastation.
I have a question. Why do you feel the need to create a permission structure for that sort of stuff? I mean, meaning it's not true.
Yeah.
Why not just say it's not true?
Yeah, look, I don't know the definition, or I don't know the legal threshold. That's not my opinion, so I don't share that opinion as it relates to genocide. Not.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom's just a spineless cuck. And that was a pathetic response. Thanks for the donation, though, Ditto. I got to take a shit. I must poo-poo. But once I'm done with my poo-poo, we will continue reacting to things. Just give me a minute. Oh. Oh. That was a nice fat shit. Brianna Donatello's dude, I can't if Vegan Gains says again without it actually being a repeated point one more time. Again makes point never before heard or thought by anyone. I think Vegan Gains thinks if he says again in a debate he's winning. That's nice. Thanks for the donation, Brianna.
Are taking place in a media distortion field. They're being framed as existential. The Supreme Leader plans to flee to Moscow. Ethnic rebels are taking over towns. Senior military officials are defecting, and so on. These are some of the claims you'll hear, and they create the impression that the country is just days away from collapse. But most of it is disinformation. Rather than focusing on the protests themselves, this video looks at the structural pressures surrounding them, the constraints that ultimately decide what they can and cannot achieve. The United States is embellishing the events because it needs a pretext to justify regime change in Iran. There's no denying that Iranians have taken to the streets to protest the government, and that many have been killed as a result. However, because of Tehran's self-imposed internet and communications blackout, nearly all information...
My brother's had a drill bit stuck in his tooth for more than half a year from a stupid dentist, and he's been unable to get covered for that removal. How is that fucking possible? Like, if they literally fucked up the procedure, shouldn't they do some sort of correction or revision or treatment for free? If they're the ones who fucked up?
Information coming out is questionable. Iran certainly has its fair share of problems: endemic corruption, pervasive repression, and the constant imposition of religious doctrine on everyday life. Those out on the streets are risking everything for a better future, and their situation deserves genuine empathy. But the protests are neither fully organic nor fully orchestrated. CIA and Mossad operatives are on the ground, flooding the information space with noise. When you look past the distortion, for Iran and its people, there are no good options. There is only a race to the bottom. Iranian authorities say 2,000 people have been killed so far. The US-based NGO Human Rights Activists in Iran estimates the number closer to...
Oh, this kitty might throw a tantrum. Why don't you just come cuddle, Gum Gum? Cuddles are always good. Come cuddle. Yeah, come cuddle. Why don't you be a good cuddle cat? Oh. I spilt some food on my shirt, and he's being a good kitty and cleaning it up for me.
2,500. By any account, this is the most significant uprising in 2 years.
Alex Jones, my therapist, only tells, if you meet a hot Iranian woman who has one stipulation, she will give you her pleasurous pussy, but first you have to sit on the ground and eat flat bread with her parents. What do you say? Well, I'd do it if she let me eat her asshole.
Dinner time, and let's ride. Nice to meet you, baby. Let me take you for a dinner. Take 2 steps, I jump on my beamer, so I can show you that the boy Banks is the winner. Hey, my name is Banks. I know your name is Mina. Nice to meet you, baby. Let me take you for a dinner. Take 2 steps, and jump on my beamer, so I can show you that the boy Banks is the winner. Hey, shawty, you're not that bad. This dinner's gonna be the best that I ever had. Let's find a table so we can sit down and relax. Oh, let's go to number 8. Sit down, baby, I'll be back. What type of food that you want? Cause you know I don't mind. As long as you're here with me, that's fine. You can come if you want, cause your smile make me shine like the moon at night time. Let's go sit down, then we'll bring the food for us. Take you home, making you feel good. That's last, cause you know I'm always in the first class. My name is Grace, I know your name is Mina. Nice to meet you, baby.
You know, at least this is wholesome. You know, he's just rapping about taking a girl out to dinner. It's definitely a lot better than fucking drill rap where they're talking about, like, fucking killing people for no reason.
Let me take you for a dinner. Anytime you wanna go again, banks will be next to you. Look at me, Rina, you're the first that I ever seen. I can treat you like a queen, if you know what I mean. What's on your mind, let me think. Me and you on the bed, I'm just kidding. So beautiful, just like cream on a cake. The way you touch me, Rina, you always make me relax. I would love to find a place so we can be far away. We can start today, what you say? Hey, my name is Grace, I know your name is Rina. Nice to meet you, baby, let me take you for a dinner. Take 2 step and jump on my beamer, so I can show you that your boy Banks is the winner.
I love these weird, awkward, terrible rap songs. This was amazing.
I'm back again on this shit for you. 2010, baby. It's coming straight through you. You feel this, baby. It's coming straight through you. What? Coming back into my life now. Once the beat is made, I might say, what? What makes you think, girl, that I want you back? What makes you think, girl, that I'd have you back? All the shit in the night you did to me. Seriously, my girl, like what the fuck was that? And all the dudes that you do to me, I'm telling you right now, my dear. You're wasting your time, I'm wasting mine too. And I know you're trying to work your way around this thing, trying to get me back and have me there right next to you. But what you want from me, Something's holding on, and I don't know what it is right now, but I know she wants me back. Cause every time she tries to walk away, something's holding on, and I don't know what it is right now, but I know she wants me back.
Yeah, that was one of the all-time greatest. This is also incredible.
Love for you. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for you. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for you. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for real. Got some question I gotta ask ya. Push your hands up on that floor. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the front low, let's go. Baby, you got a better flow. Oh mama, tell me how you feel. You snow queen, like smile, wanna see you cry. I never seen someone like you before in my life. If you with me, that's how I'm sleep. Special. Baby, I got nothing. I'll show you my secret. Unforgettable. I feel how you feel. Baby, my fry. Make me feel happy when you're around. Where were you tonight? I need you around. I feel when you're around. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for real. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for real. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for real. How you want me to? How do you feel? Love for real. It's special, baby girl. When it's in your heart, so queen, you can't be the wall.
Used to wear baggy shit like that in high school. His clothes are so baggy, it's like uncomfortable. I don't know how the fuck people walk around wearing shit like this. I remember when I was in grade 8, I had this dumb fucking cunt bitch of a fucking gym teacher. She was such a stupid, dumb fucking bitch. She's still probably pretty young, but I hope she died of fucking COVID or something, or got run over by a fucking car, or broke her legs falling down the stairs or something. Fucking hated that stupid bitch. She's the kind of fucking bitch who thinks she, like, just knows better than anybody and will just make these stupid decisions for you. I remember in grade 8, they made you wear a gym uniform at my school. It wasn't like a uniform, but like, you know, they made you wear a certain t-shirt and shorts for whatever fucking reason. And I was bigger than most kids in grade 8. So I just asked like what's the largest size shirt? Because I'm usually like, you know, an XL or double XL or something. She gave me a fucking medium, and I was like, is this the largest? And then she's like, yeah, that's the largest. Well, there's a fucking kid in my class who's even bigger than me. He was one of those freaks who's like 6'5" in grade 8. And he had like a quadruple XL. And I'm like, well, then why the fuck did she tell me like the medium was the largest? The medium was so fucking small. The fucking like, you know, like the sleeve that should go down to like here was like all the way up my fucking arm. And I could like just barely stretch the shirt down to my fucking waist. And she was trying to convince me to fucking wear this shit because she's just a controlling, manipulative, narcissist fucking bitch who thinks she knows better than everybody and is like, no, that's the right shirt for you. For no fucking reason. Dude, I wanted to smash her fucking face in so bad. I remember there was a stack of fucking bricks outside near the school, and they'd make us run like laps around the school for gym class. I was thinking of grabbing one of those fucking bricks and smashing her over the fucking head with it. She's lucky I fucking didn't. Fucking hated that cunt.
But the odd thing about these events is the media coverage. More than 260 media outlets have covered the protests in Iran. But sorting through that amount of coverage has been a nightmare, because depending on which outlet I'm looking at, I get a completely different version of events. That's exactly why I partnered with Ground News for this episode. They offer the most effective tools to try out ground news. By Iranian standards, the current protests are nothing new. The government in Tehran has seen intermittent demonstrations for years. That's because the country is plagued by 3 distinct calamities that coalesce at the same time. First, there is a massive water crisis in the country. Lakes are vanishing, aquifers are drying up, and rivers are turning to sludge. Iran is simply running out of water, which forces its people to migrate elsewhere. We produced a detailed video on this, and it provides substantial context for the current situation. It's definitely worth checking out. The second crisis relates to energy. Years of sanctions and aging infrastructure have left Iran with a growing natural gas deficit. This deficit has been the source of mass demonstrations every winter. We produced a video on this as well, and it's worth reviewing even now. However, this winter, the energy deficit is greater than ever because Israel bombed much of Iran's oil and gas infrastructure during the June 2025 conflict, and Tehran has been unable to repair the damage in time. As a result, prices have spiked.
Bugatti Barack Obama. Let me see.
I spent $1.8 million of my hard-earned money to buy this motherfucking car I had heard about called the Bugatti. I didn't buy it because I was saying, man, I want to be the first nigga with a Bugatti, and I want everybody to know I got a Bugatti. Because if that would have been the case, I'd have took this man with this camera, my man Derek G, I'd have took him to the car lot with me. Look, y'all, I'm getting this Gotti. You know what I mean? I got it because I said, man, I heard they got a fucking car that's $1 million. I want it. So I went out and I bought, this is mine. This is a hard plate, ladies and gentlemen. This is mine. I ain't put this in a video.
Those first generation Bugattis are an actual nightmare to fucking own. I've heard stories where people have only ever been able to drive those for like 2 weeks at a time before they break down and need like substantial service, and then like it's in the shop for like 2 or 3 months, and then they get to drive it for like another week or 2, and then it's in the shop for another 2 months.
Yo, I ain't did no special service and nothing. Check me in my Bugatti.
You can't even replace the tires. The entire wheel has to be replaced. And I think each wheel costs like $25,000. And they only have, they only recommend you drive something like 10 or 15,000 kilometers before you have to replace all the wheels again. Like, it's such a crazy fucking car.
Call myself Bugatti Wayne or nothing like that. Like, on the real. Yo, ask the people. I was the first African American rapper. with a Bugatti. I don't know who else say they got him and get. I was the first. You know what the people at the place called me? The Barack Obama of Bugatti. That was their words. I didn't get on the song and tell y'all that. That's what they called me. No.
The fuck?
It's for my personal life. That's my personal highlight. So I did this because that was the
Well, I guess I'm the Barack Obama of vegan cats.
reason why I got this car. What's the reason why you're lying, saying you have it? See, you making it now that niggas in the hood are actually looking in books saying, man, I can see how much that Bugatti. You can't come around and win. Come on, man. You depreciate this car. Now when somebody sees this car, they're like, oh, he got the Bugatti. But they don't even know that that man spent $2 million for that car. That this car can't be leased. That you can't have a car note on this car. You won't ever know that because they fuck
You gotta get taught how to drive this, man.
They wouldn't allow you to lease the car because it broke down too much, and the maintenance costs would make them lose money on a lease.
You want, like, and I ain't even sure that ain't what it was about. I also was wanting to say about this. I picked up a guitar, right? And also I want y'all to know I ain't stunting. This ain't no Cribs episode, nigga. Look, I need my ground fixed bad, nigga. This is terrible.
Yeah, Lil Wayne's pretty funny. I like how he sucks at skateboarding, but he's like super into skateboarding. Okay, maybe him sucking at skateboarding was overhyped. I just saw a bunch of funny videos where he had like really dumb balls. He's not, you know. Actually, he's not a bad skateboarder. Yeah, but he's pretty funny. He's a nice
country.
guy.
Inflation is high, living costs are agonizing, and the government has not provided meaningful stimulus to remedy the situation.
Oh yeah, I'd fall on my ass.
The third crisis is the economy's downward spiral. Trump's maximum pressure campaign signaled the start of this.
Oh, okay.
Trump not only embargoed Iranian oil and put a stranglehold on its economy, but he also ended the 2015 nuclear deal that Obama had negotiated, which provided Tehran with sanctions relief in exchange for limiting its nuclear activities. Since the nuclear deal's collapse and the reimposition of US sanctions, Iran has experienced major protests roughly every 2 years. These include the 2017 to 2018 economic protests, the 2019 to 2020 fuel protests, the 2021 to 2022 water protests, the 2022 to 2023 women's rights protests, and, most recently, the current protests. In short, Iran has been down this road before. However, the current protests are different, and this chart tells the story you need to know. The Iranian rial has plummeted against the US dollar since the Israel-Iran war, losing about 40% of its value in less than 7 months. In late December, things finally snapped. Shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar and other commercial districts took to the streets. Within days, the demonstrations spread to other commercial centers nationwide and expanded to include activists, students, truck drivers, and others. The economic frustrations of Iranians had been simmering for years. In fact, President Pezeshkian was elected in 2024 precisely because he promised to negotiate a new nuclear deal with the United States to ease sanctions. However, the talks failed. Both sides adopted maximalist positions, offering little to no compromise. Then, in June 2025, the Israeli and American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities compounded the diplomatic deadlock. Policymakers in Tehran looked inward. With little hope of sanctions relief and lacking the capacity to address its economic shortcomings, Iranian political factions began pointing fingers at one another. Among other measures, the Minister of Economic Affairs was dismissed, and the central bank governor was later replaced. But this reshuffling has had no impact on the livelihoods of ordinary citizens and merely demonstrates how the political elite in Tehran moves lawmakers in and out of government just to appease a frustrated population, since they have no real way to improve the economy. Iran's economic policy is essentially a menu with nothing worth ordering. Regardless of how many people are in the streets, the government in Tehran has no intention of giving up. They will not go down without a fight, and they're willing to risk civil war if it comes to it. That's because Iran's socio-political state is extremely complicated and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Whether one likes the clergy or not, Tehran has a stable support base. In the last presidential election, over 13 million people voted for the ultra-conservative candidate. This support base underpins the government, the IRGC, and other paramilitary groups. It's essentially what keeps the country running despite all its complications and shortcomings. So even if protesters prevail, the government machinery will not disappear overnight. It's also worth noting that Iran's government is not a monolith. Behind the scenes, there are disagreements over policy making and what steps the state should take. This is important to understand because, contrary to the belief that the protests will cause the government to collapse, it's more likely that the protests will drive political change from within by reinforcing certain political elements while disarming others. Whether that means a dramatic change in policy led by liberal officials such as President Pezeshkian, Ali Larijani, or former President Rouhani remains to be seen. But it could just as easily mean an extreme change in the opposite direction, with IRGC officials taking direct responsibility for the country. At the same time, it should be noted that within Iran, there is no organized political opposition to the government. They've been co-opted by the state. Meanwhile, outside the country, the political opposition is highly conflicted and polarized. Some of the groups include communists, republicans, and monarchists like Pahlavi. Apart from their opposition to the Islamic Republic, they share little in common. In this round of protests, the monarchists have had the upper hand. They've successfully spread disinformation at scale, particularly online, but their on-the-ground influence is limited. Another point to remember is that many Iranians who oppose the government also fear that a collapse would lead to an unpredictable power vacuum, and possibly the disintegration of Iran into many smaller countries based on ethnic fault lines. Thus, even Iranians who oppose the government acknowledge that the current system provides some degree of national unity, even if that unity is coerced. Perhaps the soft underbelly of the government machinery, specifically within its security apparatus, is the army. For context, Iran has a regular military like every other nation, but it also has the IRGC, also known as the Revolutionary Guards. This faction has the numbers and weapons, and frankly, overshadows the regular army. It's doubtful that Iran will see defections within the Revolutionary Guard, primarily because they are financially and politically entrenched in the current political system. For the protests to truly endanger the government, this massive apparatus would first need to fall apart, and the regular army could be a weak spot to watch. Its members are less devout and less committed to the supreme leader, which is also why they've always come second to the IRGC in equipment and armaments. So, if there are any security defectors, they will come from the regular army. The bottom line is that Tehran is facing massive demonstrations, one of the most serious since the 1979 revolution. However, don't expect a rerun of Syria, where Assad was ousted in a matter of days. The Iranian state still has broad pockets of support across the country and can weather the current unrest for weeks to come before crackdowns suppress it. That window, however, also leaves Iran's leadership in the crosshairs of American or Israeli power, visible or otherwise. I've been your host Shirvan from Caspian Report. If you approve of what we do, please leave a comment, hit the like button, and mayhaps share the video. In any case, thank you for your time.
Well, hopefully, they all just get smoked.
When Griffith asks Guts to assassinate Count Julius, many readers saw this as a calculated move, an equalization, a retaliation against someone who tried to take Griffith's life. But what if I were to tell you that there's more to this assassination ploy than meets the eye? When I started to look closer at this assassination, I believed that it unveiled the unmatched prowess of Griffith's manipulation. I started to wonder whether the death of Julius's son Adonis was truly an accident, or was it a part of Griffith's calculated plan? It's my belief that Griffith intentionally set Guts up, knowing that the mission would lead not only to Julius's death, but also to the tragic demise of his son, Adonis. In this video, we'll explore how Griffith's meticulous strategy may have made Adonis a necessary casualty for the pursuit of his dream. Now, before we dive deeper into Griffith's possible motivations for orchestrating Adonis' death, I think it's important to take a moment to understand.
No, I haven't finished Beyond Two Souls. We're gonna probably play that later tonight, like in a little bit.
And who Adonis was and why his existence posed a threat to Griffith's dream. So as for who Adonis is, he's the son of Count Julius, which makes him royalty, as Count Julius is the younger...
How much doll hair is to finish Walking Dead? If you give me $100, I'll finish it.
brother of the King of Midland. Despite his youth, Adonis was a part of the royal family's inner circle, which made him a significant figure in the line of succession. Though Adonis was not a direct heir to the throne, his connection to Julius gave him legitimate standing, as he had royal power. In a feudal society like Midland, where bloodlines determine authority, Adonis represented the continuation of Julius's claim. However, Adonis wasn't just a political figure, he was also a boy struggling to live up to his father's expectations. Julius saw him as the future of his family, pushing him to embody the ideals of nobility and strength. Adonis's status as the Count's only son made him the centerpiece of Julius's legacy. This legacy, unfortunately, placed him directly in the crosshairs of Griffith's ambition. To understand why Griffith wanted Adonis dead, we need to look at Midland's royal succession. The king's only direct heir is Princess Charlotte. However, without a male...
The Walking Dead, those Telltale games suck. They're terrible.
successor, Julius and Adonis were seen as potential candidates for the throne. In the event of the king's death, a power vacuum could have allowed Julius, or eventually Adonis, to stake their claim to the throne. This dynamic made Adonis more than just an innocent child, he was a potential rival to Griffith's ultimate dream of ruling Midland. At this point in time, Griffith had already begun to secure favor with the king through the Band of the Hawk's exploits on the battlefield. But Julius represented a significant obstacle. His position as the king's brother and his open disdain for Griffith made him quite the strong political rival. And as for Adonis, Julius's heir, he represented the continuation of that rivalry into the next generation. From Griffith's perspective, Adonis was more than just an inconvenience, he was a threat to his long-term plans. Even if Julius was eliminated, Adonis' survival would leave a loose end. If Adonis were to grow older, he would likely gather support from Midland's nobility, many of whom shared Julius' disdain for Griffith. With his father dead, Adonis could have easily become a symbol of resistance against Griffith's rise to power. Griffith's ultimate goal was clear: to marry Princess Charlotte and ascend to the throne. To achieve this, he needed to eliminate not just immediate obstacles like Julius, but also potential threats to his claim. Adonis, as the last male heir in Julius's line, represented one such threat. By ensuring that both Julius and Adonis were removed, Griffith could eliminate a rival bloodline entirely, securing a more direct path to the throne. So now we know why Griffith wanted to kill Adonis, but how did Griffith know that Guts might kill Adonis by mistake? I believe the answer to this question comes from examining Griffith's insight into Guts' personality, his fighting style, and the circumstances of the assassination. To understand Griffith's intentions, first we need to examine his relationship with Guts. Griffith knows Guts better than any other person in the Band of the Hawk, with the exception of Casca. Griffith knows that Guts is a man driven by emotion and instinct rather than strategy. In Griffith's eyes, this unpredictability isn't a weakness, it's a tool. Griffith doesn't just tolerate Guts' wild nature, he uses it to his advantage. Knowing Guts' unpredictable nature, the question arises, why would Griffith assign Guts a task that requires precision and subtlety? The answer lies in the outcome that Griffith desired, the death of Adonis. Think about it, if subtlety were the goal, then Judah would have been the obvious choice. He's a self-proclaimed jack of all trades, he's far more stealthy than Guts, and he's someone who could easily infiltrate Julius's quarters without leaving a trace. Judah's proficiency with his throwing knives and his calm, calculated demeanor make him an ideal candidate for this mission. And keep in mind, Julius was no ordinary target. He was a noble with guards, political connections, and a secure residence. A mission to kill him required precision, stealth, and finesse, and Judah ticks every box. But most importantly, Griffith knew of Judah's capabilities. Judah could have easily slipped in, completed the mission, and escaped without leaving a trace. But I believe that's precisely why Griffith didn't choose him. Now consider the contrast. Guts is a warrior. He's a battering ram, not a scalpel. While he is incredibly skilled, he lacks the precision required for a quiet assassination, and Griffith knew this. Griffith knew that sending Guts in would result in a far bloodier outcome, one that could involve unintended victims like Julius's son, Adonis. Now, let me make this clear. Griffith's ability to predict outcomes in battle isn't based on luck, it's based on his understanding of people, particularly those closest to him, like Guts. And we see this firsthand in the chapter, The Wind of Swords, where Griffith delivers one of his most revealing remarks about his understanding of Guts. It's here in this chapter that Guts apologizes to Griffith for his unpredictable nature and running off on his own during the battle. And Griffith in turn responds to Guts, stating, "Even that part of you is part of my plan." From this chapter alone, we understand that Griffith anticipates Guts' impulsive and chaotic nature, and incorporates it into his strategies. This remark is of paramount importance because it's the key to understanding why Griffith sent Guts to assassinate Julius. Griffith knew that Guts might deviate from the plan, but he also knew how to exploit that deviation to serve his own goals. The Golden Age arc shows us that Griffith is a master manipulator. He was setting the stage for a sequence of events that he could manipulate. Griffith knew that Guts' instincts would guide his actions under pressure, and he likely anticipated that this would lead to collateral damage, such as the death of Adonis. Also, I feel as though Griffith's instructions to Guts before the assassination weren't just detailed, they were almost overbearing. Griffith is usually a man of few words when giving orders, but this time he repeatedly stressed the importance of caution, stealth, and precision. And I'm sure a few of you guys are saying, hey Shane, quit being stupid, I'm sure that Griffith was just trying to be overly careful to ensure the mission's success, but I do think it's weird that Griffith meticulously outlined and over-explained every little step of the mission. He even emphasized to Guts that he must avoid detection at all costs and there should be no witnesses. I've always thought that this level of micromanagement seemed a little out of character for somebody as composed as Griffith. And even Guts acknowledges that Griffith is acting a little out of character, as Guts responds to Griffith saying, "It ain't like you." This is a stretch, but you could argue that by piling on these additional instructions, Griffith created more psychological pressure for Guts, knowing that it would heighten his reliance on instinct during the heat of the moment. This additional pressure made it more likely that Guts would react violently to any unexpected counter, and Griffith, being the master strategist that he is, likely anticipated that such an encounter would occur.
Telltale Walking Dead is not a better story than Berserk. You are psychotic.
Griffith likely knew that Julius wasn't alone in the castle, and that his son Adonis could potentially walk in on the scene at any moment. Griffith's overbearing instructions to Guts weren't just about caution. They were about ensuring that Guts would be forced to eliminate anyone who saw him, including Adonis. The Golden Age arc shows us that Griffith's brilliance lies in his ability to create scenarios where every outcome serves his ambition. By sending Guts to assassinate Julius, Griffith set up a situation where he couldn't lose. If Guts carried out the mission flawlessly and killed only Julius, Griffith would still achieve his revenge and simultaneously eliminate a major political rival. But if Guts were to encounter any witnesses, like Adonis, Griffith knew that Guts would have no choice but to kill them to protect the mission. Either way, Griffith wins. Julius is eliminated, the bloodline is extinguished, and Griffith maintains plausible deniability. But what I think is the most damning piece of evidence is Griffith's own reaction upon hearing of Adonis' death. When Griffith receives the news that both Count Julius and Adonis have been killed, something chilling happens. He smiles. In this brief moment, Griffith's expression says more than words ever could. It speaks to his true intent, his calculated manipulation, and his cold acceptance of Adonis' death as part of his grand plan. Griffith's smile is subtle, but it's impossible to ignore. It comes immediately after hearing that both Julius and Adonis are dead, and it's a stark contrast to the horror such news might provoke in someone with a more conventional moral compass. This smile reveals Griffith's satisfaction, not just with the mission's success, but that it was a total success. Both Julius and his bloodline have been eliminated, removing a significant obstacle to Griffith's ambitions. It's as if Griffith is acknowledging that everything went according to plan. His smile is not one of surprise, but of quiet approval, further suggesting that Adonis' death was not an unfortunate accident, but an outcome Griffith anticipated, and perhaps even hoped for. Not long after the assassination, Griffith speaks with Minister Foss, where he makes a critical remark. Minister Foss comments on the death of Adonis, stating that he was only a boy of 13 years of age. He says, surely his death is the work of a demon, and Griffith responds with a calculated statement.
No, it was not the act of a demon.
Huh?
It was the act of a man, I'm afraid.
This line is incredibly significant. Griffith attributes the act to a man, yet he subtly distances himself from direct responsibility while acknowledging the human nature of the act. But on a deeper level, it's almost as if Griffith is taking pride in the fact that this outcome was orchestrated by human hands, his hands, through careful manipulation and strategy. In my opinion, this moment solidifies the theory that Adonis' death was not an accident, but a planned outcome of Griffith's strategy. Griffith's smile is one of the most telling moments in Berserk. It's not just an expression of satisfaction, it's a window into Griffith's soul. This shows us far before the eclipse that Griffith sees human lives, even the life of a child, as mere pieces on a chessboard of his ambition. These moments force the reader to confront the true nature of Griffith's ambition and the cost of his rise to power. It's a chilling reminder that in Griffith's world, no life is sacred if it stands in the way of his dream. Hey guys, Shane here. Happy New Year. Hope you're all doing well.
I like Berserk analyses. They're cool.
Guys, we are out here at SHOT Show 2026, and we are at the Roswell Rifle Works booth, and we have probably the most exciting thing, I think, of the entire show. That's my personal opinion, and it is, oh my gosh,
Dude.
the SR3M.
Oh, and it's a 9x39. Fuck. Dude, Canada's so fucking gay. I wish we could get guns like this here.
Probably a gun that most people thought we would absolutely never see in the United States. I don't know how you guys kept this under wraps for so long, but you guys have been working on this for the better part of like 15 months. So a little over a year. And it shows, dude. This looks
That is
so
such
good.
a
It's
sick
so refined,
fucking gun.
sporting the Tisha. Yep. Thank you guys for doing that, but it looks right at home on there, doesn't it? I'm seeing a lot of improvements on this. I'm seeing M-Lock up here, which the original did not have.
Yeah, the original was 3 events. We made an M-Lock just to make it easier. And then we got another version that's going to have a filler piece for the pistol variant, and also a 9x39 pick rail for anybody that doesn't want the wire stock. That's not the most comfortable thing.
And then one thing I'm seeing is you guys have a magazine over there, and this looks to be an OE magazine.
So these magazines, you can't get them.
No.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So
And when you do, they're stupid expensive.
Right. So we made our own reproduction mags. Currently this is going to be FJM printed, but eventually it's going to be
Molded, yeah. Cool. How long do you think until this guy hits the market, by the way? I think a lot of people want to know when this is going to come out.
We're hoping end of Q2, early Q3.
Oh, wow. It's right around the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
If I win the lottery, I think I'm moving to Florida. Like, might be hard with the Trump administration, but like, I think once Trump's out of office, I might try to move to Florida. Cause goddamn, I'm sick of winter. I'm sick of the fucking liberals. I'm sick of the fucking gun control. You can just have more fun in the U.S.
Yeah. Another thing that a lot of people are probably going to want to know right off the rip, because we've heard of other VSS or AS Val clones hitting the market. We've heard prices of like 7,000. I'm curious, and I'm also scared at the same time. What do you have a range for this?
Our goal is to be 35 to 45.
That's a
our
lot
goal.
better than what I.
It's expensive, but fairly reasonable considering. That is sick.
For a taste of godlike power. Each of them represents a different form of corruption. Characters like Rosine, the child who wanted to escape cruelty, and in doing so, became a winged demon who inflicted that same cruelty onto others. Wild, hedonism personified, a sadist at heart, he embodied the chaos and degeneracy of unchecked flesh. He was a true monster, one that was completely bereft of morality. The Count, a man who turned his heartbreak into nothing more than gluttonous rage. All of these apostles, while unique and different in their own ways, have one commonality. Every single one of them reflects some sort of human desire, whether it be love, freedom, faith, or vengeance. They all curdled into monstrosity under the weight of the God-Hand's bargain. But there is one apostle who seems to be different, an outlier whose legend carries a strange dignity, a warrior's pride, even a sense of code. Nosferatu Zod, the immortal, the legend, the beast who lived for hundreds of years, wandering the battlefield in search of strong opponents. A demon spoken of with awe and reverence, even by soldiers who know they'll die at his hands. Unlike his brethren. Unlike his apostle brethren, Zod doesn't revel in sadism. He doesn't torture for pleasure. He doesn't prey on the weak. To both the Berserk fanbase and the in-universe characters alike, Zod stands apart. An apostle with honor, a monster with restraint, a beast guided by a warrior's code. But this legend, this idea of Zod as the honorable apostle, hides something deeper. Because when you trace his story across the entire saga, a clear pattern emerges. Every major event tied to fate, every act of destiny shaped by the God-Hand, carries Zod's shadow somewhere behind it. At the Battle of Doldrey, during the fight with Wild, at the Eclipse, during Griffith's rebirth, in every war, every turning point, every chain of causality, Zod is there. And while many people think of him as a free warrior who bows to no one, the reality is that every action he takes, knowingly or not, reinforces the will of the God Hand. Zod is not the noble outlier. He's not the exception to apostolic corruption. Zod is, and always has been, the perfect servant. We first meet Zod, quite fittingly in the chapter titled Nosferatu Zod. Zod's myth begins as a legend, the immortal warrior who lives only for strong opponents, sparing the weak out of disdain. And of course, when you compare Zod to other apostles like the Snake Baron, the Count, or Wild, all of them who are sadists who revel in cruelty, he's going to appear honorable. And this is a series filled with characters like the King of Midland, Wild, Lord Genin, fucking Donobang, and the Sex Horse. So yeah, Zod is going to appear honorable compared to half of the characters in this universe. But this perception of honor is nothing more than an illusion. When you strip away the surface level myth, Zod's honor isn't moral, it's egotistical. Let me make one thing clear. Zod doesn't fight for meaning, justice, or creed. He fights because the thrill of combat is all that's left for him. And we know this because Zod has a conversation with the Skull Knight, where the Skull Knight asks him point blank, "Fighting was everything to you, wasn't it, immortal?" And Zod replies in turn, "It's that, and that alone." Zod fights because the thrill of combat is all that's left for him at this point. He avoids the weak, not out of mercy, but boredom. For Zod, every battle is a drug, every kill is another hit of adrenaline to keep his immortal mind from decaying into the emptiness that is his life at this point. And we see this firsthand from Zod's very first appearance within the Golden Age arc.
It didn't eat him. It's killing for sport.
So just to quickly recap this chapter, the Band of the Hawk is hired to clear out a bunch of different mercenaries residing within this fortress. The Band of the Hawk sends numerous men into the stronghold, but none of them come out. Except for one. The legendary warrior, Delos. And the legend of Delos essentially begins and ends in that one moment, guys. But we gotta pay our respects, okay? The Shane D, that stands for Delos. Never forget. But getting back to Zod, I think it's pretty obvious that he doesn't care about defending this fortress. He's only waiting for somebody worthy to fight. He isn't avenging anyone. He's hunting for entertainment. And unfortunately for Guts, he becomes that long sought after source of entertainment that Zod was hoping to find.
You must not let me down!
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
I think it would be too kind of me to call this a fight. Zod essentially gives Guts the Kuwabara special. I mean, he beats Guts nuts. What else is there to say, guys? I'll give Guts all the credit. I mean, he put up a brave front, and he did manage to wound Zod, being the first man to essentially pop Zod's cherry in about 300 years. But after this, I mean, Zod just goes into his full apostle form and absolutely decimates him. Zod is overjoyed throughout the entirety of this fight. This man is savoring every swing of the blade, and when Griffith joins in to help Guts out, Zod practically climaxes. That is, until he sees the Crimson Behelit. Now, of course, Zod recognizes what the Behelit is. It's the mark of the chosen, those whose lives are interwoven with the God Hand's grand design. And in that moment, Zod understands that he's not standing before an ordinary man. He's standing before the instruments of destiny itself. And from this point on, the fight no longer matters to Zod. Zod spares Guts and the rest of the Band of the Hawk, not out of any admiration or respect, but because he knows that their deaths are not his to give. But before Zod leaves, he offers a prophecy. If you can be said to be a true friend of this man, when his ambition collapses, death will pay you a visit. A death you can never escape. Now I want to take a moment to acknowledge what Zod says here, because these aren't the words of a warrior honoring another's courage. These are the words of nothing more than a servant of fate. Zod is an apostle soldier repeating the script of causality. He's not choosing to spare Guts. He's recognizing that Guts is already claimed by destiny. And there's a deeper layer here. If Zod had it his way, he and Guts would be fighting to the death. Zod's entire worldview revolves around the pursuit of battle, and yet in this moment he chooses not to fight. Now why is that? Well, because even battle must yield to fate. Zod's love for strong opponents is always secondary to his submission to the flow of causality. And to Zod, the Crimson Behelit isn't a simple prediction, it's an observation of truth in his eyes. He's seen it before countless times, and he knows how the God Hand works, how ambition leads to sacrifice, and how every chosen one eventually becomes an instrument of the greater design. Now, analyzing what Zod says, a death you can never escape. It's definitely one of the more haunting lines in Berserk, and for Zod, this isn't a threat, it's a statement of natural law. Because in Zod's world, the world of apostles and the God Hand, no one escapes the current of causality. And at least in my opinion, Zod doesn't just believe this man actually embodies it. I mean, you guys think about the apostles, and his entire existence is built around obedience to the cosmic current. Zod assumes that Guts, like everybody else, will meet a death that's written for him, that's predetermined. But Miura's genius shines through here, because of course, Guts doesn't die. When Griffith's ambition collapses during the eclipse, when the Band of the Hawk is completely devoured, Guts should have died. By the laws of causality, he was supposed to die. He had no power, no protection, and no reason to survive. And yet through sheer will, rage, and refusal, Guts is able to tear his way out of the eclipse. He's maimed, broken, and branded, but he's still alive. So in the end, the very same man whom Zod called doomed became the one who defied destiny itself. And I bring this up because this is the fundamental difference between a character like Zod and Guts. Zod witnesses fate and he bows to it. Guts witnesses fate and he fights it. Zod sees the Bailet and recognizes inevitability, whereas Guts sees it and he struggles to overcome it. The line, "a death you can never escape," was supposed to be absolute, and yet Guts still escapes it. And Guts is able to escape by embodying the single principle that Miura threads throughout the entire series of Berserk, that the struggle itself is meaning. Zod's strength is notable even when comparing him to other apostles, with Locust remarking that his battle frenzy was notable even amongst the most bloodthirsty of apostles, and Grunbelt stating that he can best a force 1,000 strong. But like all apostles, Zod's strength was born from sacrifice. Berserk never shows us his origin, but Miura's laws are absolute. No apostle gains their power without offering someone or something dear to them to the God Hand. And this single fact alone shatters the illusion of Zod's so-called strength, because it means that the foundation for all of his honor, all of his warrior pride, is built on an act of cowardice. Somewhere in his ancient past, Zod had to have faced a moment where his strength failed him, where either death loomed or meaning collapsed, and rather than accepting this fate, he reached for the Bailet. And if there's one thing we've all learned from Berserk, it's that the Bailet doesn't answer the call of the strong, it answers the screams of the desperate. The Bailet activates when someone can no longer bear to be powerless. And this means that Zod's power, the same power that makes him seem godlike, was born from a moment of absolute human weakness. Throughout the series, we've heard Zod preach about strength, how only the strong are worth his time, and how the weak are nothing but fodder for the battlefield. Zod acts as though he has some moral high ground when compared to the other apostles, stating that he has no interest in their indulgent spree, and what he only seeks are the strong. And he lectures Guts on strength, stating, "Words lack elegance, force your way past." But Miura never lets us forget that Zod's own power is not a product of discipline or battle like Guts. It's a product of betrayal. But what's really fascinating here is that we have proof in Berserk that a sacrifice doesn't necessarily happen only once. We know that Zod has been around for over 300 years. So I think it's entirely plausible that during this long duration that Zod has sacrificed more than one thing in hopes of achieving his strength. And we've seen this possibility firsthand through the Count, who first sacrificed his wife to become an apostle, and later was given the opportunity to sacrifice his daughter. And this tells us something crucial about the Berserk universe as a whole, specifically regarding the nature of apostles. It shows that the apostles' servitude to the God Hand is self-perpetuating. They can deepen it, renew it, and even choose to do it again if they want, so long as they have something to sacrifice, that is. So what does this say about Zod the Immortal, the man who's walked the earth for hundreds of years? How many times has he chosen strength over whatever fragment of humanity might have remained in him? And this is the tragedy of Zod. This immortality, it's not endurance, it's only servitude. Zod is not a self-made warrior. He's a recycled pawn, one that's been reforged by the same hands of fate every time he falters. Every drop of power comes from his own weakness. The way I see it now is that Zod's obsession with strength has to be one of the longest-running lies throughout the story of Berserk. It's the lie that he tells himself to justify a sin that's so old that he might have even forgotten the name of the person he sacrificed to begin with. And I think it's this that makes Zod the perfect servant of causality. Knowingly or not, Nosferatu Zod has been the herald of causality since the very beginning. From the moment he first appeared before Guts and Griffith, drenched in the blood of countless men, he didn't just test them, he marked them. Zod is the first character in this series who would foretell the tragedy that would define the rest of Guts' life. And from that day forward, every one of his actions, whether it was deliberate or not, has pushed fate along its inevitable course. At the Battle of Doldrey, Zod reappears, descending like a myth reborn. When Guts' sword shatters mid-battle, Zod does a lat spread, flexes his 30-inch biceps, and proceeds to throw him another sword. The same warrior who once fought Guts to the brink of death now arms him. Now, to the untrained eye, this looks like respect, one fighter granting another a fair duel, but the truth is much darker than this. By giving Guts the blade, Zod ensures that Griffith's victory over General Boss Gon is complete. And this victory seals Griffith's legend, earning him command, status, and power, the very foundations of the dream that will later collapse in ruin. By doing this, Zod is essentially nurturing a pig for slaughter, and every decision he makes loops back to the same conclusion: the rise of Griffith and the fall of everyone else around him. We see this when Wild goes rogue, threatening Griffith's life, and Zod kills him without hesitation. There's no contemplation here. There's no real conflict. I mean, Wild does beg for his life like a little bitch, but Zod still kills him anyway. But here's the weird thing. Zod doesn't kill Wild out of any principle. It's not because of the heinous acts that Wild committed. It's almost as if Zod was pre-programmed to kill Wild. Causality demands that Griffith live, and Zod fulfills that demand instinctively. Even Wild is confused at this point as he outright asks Zod, "What are you doing?" It's almost like the hand of God itself has been shoved so far up Zod's ass it's working him like a puppet. And then of course comes the eclipse, the culmination of every thread that Zod has pulled. And while Zod claims that he's not guarding the gate, I mean, the irony here is undeniable. You are clearly guarding the gate by preserving the ceremony. And by fighting the Skull Knight, he's essentially ensuring that Griffith's ascension happens uninterrupted. Zod is making Skull Knight pay the troll toll in order to get into that hole.
You gotta pay the troll toll. If you want to get into that boy's hole, you gotta pay the troll toll to get in.
I think that Zod has spent centuries truly believing that his lust for combat
I've never seen that Danny DeVito skit.
That makes him free in some way. But in large moments like this, I think Miura really shows us the truth. Zod doesn't fight against destiny, he fights for it. Zod is a perfect apostle, the servant of causality. The beast who carries out causality's work while convincing himself he's acting on instinct. And after the eclipse, the metaphor becomes literal. This immortal warrior, the same creature who once stood above the battlefield as a god of death, becomes Griffith's mount, his beast of burden, his wings, his personal fucking Uber. Griffith probably turns to Zod and just tells him, "Yo Zod, get your ass outside, we gotta go pick up my girl Charlotte." This turn of events is definitely poetic, but also a little bit humiliating. This is the same warrior who defied death for centuries, and now he's turned into Griffith's personal chauffeur. But since the eclipse, Zod has been busy doing most of Griffith's dirty work. We'll be generous here and just call him the errand boy of destiny. He was there when Flora's mansion burned, he fought countless battles in Griffith's name, cutting down armies, clearing paths, making way for the rise of Falconia, and when Griffith came for Casca, of course Zod was there to take her back to Falconia. But with all of this said, surprisingly, I do think there is a little bit of hope here for Zod to subvert the flow of causality. And my opinion here is mainly derived from the conversation that Zod has with Sonya. Sonya tells Zod, "You have a choice to make, madness or volition, beast or warrior. Make it your weapon." And this is one of the few moments in Berserk where someone actually challenges Zod, not in battle, but in spirit. It foreshadows the one time where we actually saw Zod act outside of pure servitude, the fight against Ganishka where he teams up with Guts. And at least in my opinion, these two enemies, one mortal, one immortal, working together to take down an emperor turned god, at least in my opinion, in this moment, Zod isn't a servant fighting on behalf of causality, the God Hand, or Griffith. In this moment, he isn't an apostle. He's a warrior again. So maybe, just maybe there's a fragment of Zod left that remembers what it means to choose.
It looks like Zod might consider turning on Griffith. He doesn't seem to be pleased with how things are going. So that would be interesting. It's possible that happens. Fucking love the story Berserk. It'll be great when the whole story is wrapped up and I can read it from beginning to end again.
Choose. And this brings us to the more recent chapters of Berserk, where we see Zod once again. We see all of the other apostles kneeling before Griffith and Falconia. But Zod, he's not bowing. He stands alone, silent, his eyes distant. The panel doesn't exactly tell us what he's thinking. We get just an ellipsis, a brief pause as if fate itself doesn't know what's coming next. Maybe Zod will look at Griffith, the man he's carried, literally, and realize that he's been carrying his own chains all along. I'm not too optimistic about this, I don't really know for sure, but if this day ever...
I have a funny feeling Zod may have some sort of familial relation with Guts. Because their hair is kind of similar, their skin tone is kind of similar. They have, somewhat similar facial features, even. The kind of lifestyle they had seems fairly similar too. Their interest in combat and everything. Zod is kind of the example of what Guts could have become in a different life. There's also some subtle mentions of that Zod is made about Guts. Possibly being related. I made a post about that on my community page once where apostles have a sense or people in the Berserk universe can actually sense if somebody's related to them in a way, and Zod has kind of made similar suggestions. So, yeah, I don't know. Really want to see what happens with the story.
We traveled to Australia.
Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Hannah. I'm an IFBB Pro.
Plants no tellers, look at all the sleeping kitties. Oh. Oh my god. That is so many cats. Imagine the amount of cat shit you'd have to clean up. That's a lot of cats. Oh my god. Wow. They're all so nice. Oh my goodness. I just love kitties. They're so fuzzy and silly. Look at that silly guy. Just love how cuddly they are. They're so fuzzy and silly and cute. I love kitties. Kitties are good. Thanks for the donation, Plants.
Bodybuilder, and on this channel we talk about all things bodybuilding and without filters. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I know it's been a while since I last posted. I'm sorry about that. I had family in town, and honestly I think I was having a little bit of analysis paralysis because there's so many things I want to talk about and I couldn't just pick one. But there is one question you guys have been asking me more than anything else since I started my YouTube, which is, why did I want to become hypermuscular in the first place? And I've avoided answering it, not because I didn't want to, but because one, it's extremely vulnerable for me, and two, there's going to be some people that are going to try to twist it into something it's not. But this channel isn't for those people. It's for the ones that I know stories like mine actually help. And just to say this up front, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm just a person trying to be honest. So just please keep that in mind. And before we get into this one, I want to set expectations. This is not a video with a neat conclusion. A lot of videos online present you with a complete thought, a story with a metaphorical bow on it. This isn't that. This is my honest reflection, my best guess at why I wanted to become hypermuscular. And some of it might sound messy. Well, that's because it was. Even now, I'm not sure if I fully understand it. So if you're expecting a super clear, rational explanation, this might not be that kind of video. So today I will finally be answering the most asked question that I get. Why did I want to be hypermuscular at all? I'll also briefly be talking about my future plans at the end because some of you guys have been asking. What I'm not doing is telling my entire life story. I mean, if you guys really want that, I'll do it, but it'll be super, super long. For this video, I'm just going to be sticking to a few key moments that I believe shaped my relationship with my body and my desire to change it. For a long time, when people asked me why I got into bodybuilding, I gave pretty generic answers. I'd say things like it made me feel good or I wanted to be healthy. This was before steroids, of course. Those answers weren't lies, but they also weren't the full truth. Because if I'm being honest, health was never a motivator for me. Not once did I think I'm doing this so I can live a long time. Aside from when I was really young and I just enjoyed being active, most of my training was never about health. And I don't think I really let myself think too much into that. I want to briefly talk about steroids because it matters for context. There was a version of me before steroids and there was a version on steroids. Steroids did not make me do anything, but they absolutely changed how clearly I saw myself. Being on them made it harder to step back, harder to question my limits, and harder to tell where an emotion was coming from. And I don't think I could see that clearly until I got off of them. Being on steroids changes the way you think. People deny this all the time, but I will die on this hill. If I were still on steroids, I'd still be answering this question with my ego, instead of actually letting myself admit that maybe there was more to it than I wanted there to be. Most of the interviews that I've done begin with a magazine. When I was 16, I saw an old muscle and fitness magazine, at least I think that's what it was. There was a female bodybuilder on the cover of it, and immediately I was drawn to it. But I don't think that was actually the beginning. I think that was just the moment that something that already existed finally had an image. I was homeschooled most of my life and very sheltered, so I'd never really seen a muscular woman before. And my first thought wasn't, that's cool, even though I did think it was very cool. My first thought was, I bet nobody messes with her. I want to add a quick note before I continue. Part of why I hesitated to make this video is because I know some people will accuse me of sharing this for sympathy. That happened a lot after my first video went viral. But this interview, this one, is actually what pushed me to start my first YouTube.
My pleasure to introduce Hannah Hussein. Hannah has a story that I think everybody needs to hear.
You know, we have so much information on training, nutrition, all the things. I can't find information when things go wrong. So eventually document what I went through. I keep saying this, but I've thought about creating a YouTube and kind of just, you know, putting it out there.
About a whole channel called Hannah's Place.
Yeah. So that's what really pushed me to make my first YouTube video. And that interview was a month before I started my channel. There was also many, many other reasons why I made that first video, but sympathy was never one of them. Here's where I'm going to pause and add trigger warnings before I continue. How many trigger warnings are too many? I don't know. I'm going to add all of them, but this is your warning. I do cover sensitive topics moving forward. If you're still with me, let's get into my story. I was always underweight as a kid. I was always the smallest out of my family and friends. Sometimes people would joke that I was a runt, and it never bothered me. When my stepdad came into my life around 8 years old, he made an active effort to help me put on weight. I was about 43 pounds at 8 years old. I was decently outgoing, and I don't ever remember being insecure about my size. I was generally a pretty happy kid. That all changed when I was about 10 years old. My family went on a cruise, and my...
No, I do not stream on Jerkmate.
size was used against me by a babysitter. I won't go into detail, but whatever conclusion that you've drawn is probably the correct one. And that is the first time my body stopped feeling neutral. It became something that could be used against me. I never told anybody this, and my family actually stayed friends with that family, but I just avoided them. And from that point forward, anytime somebody would bring up my small size, it would bother me. At age 12, my family and I moved to Texas, where I still currently am.
There's nothing really to this. She just learned that, you know, strength is important. It's all important. It's the ruling force in the universe, and those who lack it will succumb to its forces. So, there's a reason why, you know, people like Arnold Schwarzenegger were so fucking huge, and people loved the Conan the Barbarian films, the Terminator films. There's a reason why all these dudes in Hollywood get super ultra jacked, you know, like Hugh Jackman for Wolverine, Chris Hemsworth for Thor. There's a reason why those physiques are like so sought after. Everyone blows their mind over them. Everyone knows deep down that strength is all important. And sometimes it just takes a little more for people to figure that out.
This is also around the time period where I hit puberty, and the awareness of attention to my body became a million times worse. And if I'm being honest, my life became a million times worse. I had a very developed body for my age, which brought attention from both kids and adults. Some of the comments made me really uncomfortable. Some of them came from my own mother, unfortunately. I started to feel deeply uncomfortable in my own skin. Around 13, I was again betrayed by another adult, and that is when I developed an ED and severe food restrictions, which I now understand was an attempt to regain some kind of control over a body that no longer felt like mine. By the way, I'm using language like ED and betrayed because I don't want YouTube to flag this video, not because I don't want to say what these things actually are. At age 15, it happened again, then again at 16 by a married manager at my first job. By this point, I fully believed what was happening was my fault. My body began to feel like a liability more than anything. And again, I never said anything because these experiences were deeply embarrassing to me, and I believed that my body was the problem. Around 15, I started going to the gym with my stepdad. We were training.
Thank you for the dumb retarded comment, Zachary. You're a retard.
For a triathlon, but I noticed people lifting weights and I was curious. I hadn't really been exposed to weightlifting, but one thing was very obvious. Lifting made you strong. Eventually, I worked up the courage to train in the weight room, and a trainer kind of took me under his wing. And from that day forward, I never stopped training. A year later is when I saw the magazine, and everything clicked. I needed to look like that. And once I started to put on real size, it felt like armor. It still does, because the reality is it did.
Sorry, vegan, you cannot beat me in a fight, and I weigh 165 pounds, max bench is 185. Yeah, sure, buddy.
Changed the way I was treated. And if you're someone who's went from skinny to muscular, you know what I'm talking about. It's an unfortunate reality, but your physical self will change how the world interacts with you. Yeah. My honest speculation of why I first wanted to be hypermuscular. Looking back, I think a lot was happening at once. There was so much to my upbringing that felt completely out of my control. And I think I saw becoming muscular as a way to gain control. I do think that I would have found muscle appealing no matter what, but my gut tells me that I wouldn't have felt the need to take it so far had my life played out differently. But again, this is speculation, because when I was finally introduced to steroids, taking them did not feel like a grounded or well thought out decision. It felt desperate. I want to pause here. I'm sharing this for context, not as an excuse. I am responsible for my choices. For all I know, I might have taken steroids no matter what. I might have wanted muscle for attention. I'm self-aware enough to admit that. And one last thing before I continue, because the internet will internet, harm does not have a gender. Women can be predators too. Let's not turn this into a culture war. To close out this topic, I'll never truly know if I would have made the same decisions had my life taken a different path. But at this point, it doesn't matter to me. What happened does not define me. Even having taken steroids does not define me. I own my decisions, and I'm grateful for the life that I currently have, because now I'm armed with something even stronger than muscle. I am armed with knowledge. As cheesy as that sounds, but I can help people who might see themselves in this. And I know with certainty that this video will resonate with some of you. And that's what makes putting it out there worth it to me. Comment broccoli and I'll tell you how I overcame my traumas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm so kidding, you guys. I'm sorry. I had to offset this with some sarcasm. Moving on. My future plans. I've said this before and it's made some people mad, but I'm going to keep bodybuilding. It will probably always be.
What do you think of bulk and cutting is dead? Getting like outrageously fat is a bad idea. I think it's pretty clear that if you do put on some additional body fat, you're absolutely going to get stronger. And strength is highly correlated to muscle mass. And I mean, you can look at so many fucking people, especially naturals, where they try to maintain a very lean physique, where they stay like under 15%, and especially people who try to stay like 10% or less, they never grow. They're just stuck. So you can try, but what works. Like all this horse shit that you hear from people where, oh, gaining additional body fat isn't going to help you put on any additional muscle. Great. Who are you hearing that from? You're either hearing that from bodybuilders who are on a lot of steroids, or you're hearing that from some women like Scientific Snitch, where they only weigh like fucking 90 something pounds, if that, and like what, she benches 150 or something. Like, there's a big difference between a woman who has relatively impressive lifts for their size, for being like around 90 or 100 pounds, and a man who could potentially bench over 400 pounds. So I wouldn't listen to tiny girls or like dudes who are on steroids and can use drugs to kind of pull that lever to just create more anabolism. If you're natural, in all likelihood, unless you're very genetically gifted, yeah, you are going to have to gain some body fat to really push through some plateaus when it comes to muscle mass and strength. And even if you're on steroids, there's only so much steroids you can take. Like, there's a reason why bodybuilders do, in fact, get fatter in the off season. You do need a certain amount of body fat to be able to build muscle, and it's probably related to IGF-1, if I had to guess. A lot of people anecdotally talk about how they make their best progress when they're eating in a caloric surplus, and it's probably related in large part to elevated levels of IGF-1, because being in a caloric surplus will raise IGF-1. There may also be some hormonal things that happen that are beneficial, where your estrogen might increase a little bit. You probably are going to have more testosterone if you're eating at least enough, you know? If you're calorically restriction, your testosterone's certainly going to go down. So being in a caloric surplus probably elevates your testosterone a little bit. And there may be some other things. Having additional body water storage is absolutely beneficial for strength. There's no doubt about that. So being in a caloric surplus will make you retain more body water, and that's absolutely beneficial for strength. So I wouldn't say bulking's dead. Like what I did to bench 410, where I bulked up to 270, I think that was a little extreme. I probably could have done that being maybe like 240 or in the 240-ish range. I don't think I had to go all the way up to 270, but you're not going to be your biggest and strongest, and you're definitely going to have more issues if you try to stay like close to 10%.
Be part of my life. This channel was never about demonizing bodybuilding or announcing my retirement. Weightlifting itself is not unhealthy. It's the steroids that's the problem. I speak mostly about the risks because we're in the middle of an epidemic of young people coming into this industry blind. There's so much gray area and there's so much that's hidden in this industry. But bodybuilding,
I genuinely believe she knows very little about drugs, period. She talked about some of her coaches putting her on some of the most ridiculous contest prep protocols. Like, she just didn't know what the fuck she was doing or what she was taking. She was on high doses of Primobolan and taking 2 different AIs at the same time. And then she's blaming her issues with her urinary tract on the steroids when, no, you just took multiple drugs that crush your fucking estrogen, and that's probably why you had the issues with your urinary tract lining. Like, it wasn't just the steroids.
has also given me so much. And I know that's probably confusing to you as a viewer. You can love something and still want better for it. Both things can be true. My future.
Yes, 410's the most I've benched so far. I don't do 1-rep max tests every fucking week.
Still involves bodybuilding. Only now I understand my limits. Before, I thought not having limits made me a better athlete. Now I see that was addiction disguised as discipline. And it did turn into addiction. I do believe that. So this time, if something doesn't work, the answer will not be more drugs. I announced it on Instagram already, but I have decided to step back into the figure category. And if I don't do well, the answer.
How to argue with so many weaklings in Danny's VG posting masculinity is for pussies, yada yada, like strength means nothing. That is what's called cope maxing.
There will not be more drugs. And if something isn't working out in my personal life, the answer still will not be more drugs. You guys get the point. And of course, my future involves more videos of me talking about stuff like this, because I do think bodybuilding can have a safer future. But it starts at the ground up. It starts with athletes truly knowing the risks and understanding their own limits and understanding their own whys and understanding what is driving them. Then with the coaches that need to stop using athletes as science experiments and personal advertisements, because the judges can only judge what is brought to them, and we decide
One
what
of the most criminally underrated exercises for back strength has got to be the seal row. This is an exercise that I like to call a deep simplicity, which means that it sticks to its intended purpose without the sacrifice of quality. It skips all of the noise and the fluff. It builds back strength in an athletic and explosive manner. Now, I am very surprised that we don't see more athletes using this. It's a very old exercise, been used since the Soviet times in the strength training
Seal rows are goated. I fucking love seal rows.
preparation of wrestlers, for example. Dr. Yuri Veroshansky, he mentioned it in his books as well. The problem with, let's say, a pen lay row or a bent over row is that it leaves too many question marks sometimes. If I program it to my athletes, when the weights get heavy, it is very difficult to keep the movement strict. There will always be some kind of momentum, which is completely fine. But this exercise, it just removes all of these question marks. The margin of error is extremely low. Yes, sometimes you might flap around like a fish, especially when you get to maximal weights, but it's not really detrimental. One of the most
I'm bringing drug prices down more than anybody in the history of, the first drug we discovered.
Jesus. All the time.
Yeah, and so he has to go up to these unrealistic numbers, and he'll believe them because it makes him the best.
Mm-hmm. So you wrote a research paper, I think this was in 2018, where you said that narcissism should be treated like a form of addiction, which I'd never heard that before. What do you mean by that?
Great topic, great question. There's a term I mentioned briefly before called narcissistic supply, which is the reward that a narcissist gets from the adulation, the adoration, all of the great things that they demand. The crowd sizes, is a perfect example. Well, that's supply. You can view supply like cocaine. You need that supply. During COVID, there was a time when Trump went out for rallies because he hadn't for so long, and so he needed that drug. He was so desperate to get some of that supply, to get those adoring crowds, because it hadn't been happening. Yes, your inauguration size is the biggest in history. He has to have that, and even if it's wrong, he can have people lie to him and say that yes, you have the biggest crowd size, and by demanding that loyalty, by demanding that people bend the knee and kiss the ring, sort of thing, he gets supply, both from them telling him how great he is, and from the fact that they're doing it. Okay, the fact that they're subservient to him and what they're telling him, he's getting that supply. So there's your drug, and you can truly compare it to cocaine. There have been studies done on this where, like neurochemical, neurobiological studies as well, where if you look at the pathways in the brain that regulate cocaine or heroin or alcohol or gambling, that regulate that addiction, they're the same pathways. So someone getting narcissistic supply is activating the same pathways as someone smoking crack, which is wild. It's amazing.
Does it have the same effect? I've never had the opportunity to do cocaine, but I've seen Scarface, and the general impression I have is that once you start doing cocaine, you want more and more cocaine because the cocaine's effect is diminishing, right? On or you become accustomed to it, so you need higher and more quantities. Does this narcissism feedback loop sort of work the same way?
Yes, it's the simple answer. I'll just say yes. You get used to that. I mean, think of rock stars. Boy, you get used to that environment. You get used to people fawning all over you. And anybody in that type of situation, a politician that's suddenly gaining lots of fame and glory. You get used to it. You get used to starting off as a idealistic young congressperson. And 10 years later, you're another senator you have on the take from whatever lobbyist, because you're so used to the rewards that you get. It's difficult not to get sucked in. It's difficult not to become a narcissistic superstar. So the people that have
each side, or he's guilty, he's innocent. And then the judge or the jury is the peer review.
Watches and people are just using the content to now kill themselves, or is it literally just videos on how to kill yourself? Like, that's it.
It's videos on that, and maybe the deeper philosophy of why one should be allowed to, right? Let's say there's many different expressions of it, but the key thing is there's a dangerous idea, the most dangerous idea perhaps, and it's spreading in many different ways.
There's really no point to you even speaking. And then the third prong is, I think that you need a framework where you can hold.
I don't know what the fuck that was.
Have very normal lifestyles that are at that level of, of fame and glory. And I know a couple are fabulous people.
No, face pulls are not the same as seal rows. That's why they're called face pulls, not seal rows.
I have so much respect for them because they're able to put all that aside. They're able to put all that drug aside, literally and figuratively. So yes, it's a drug. You want more of it. You need more of it. And Trump's actions during COVID was a beautiful example of that. He needed that in order to thrive.
If you look at cabinet meetings right now, you'll have Marco Rubio there, you'll have RFK, you have Dr. Oz, all these people who are perceived to be high value. A lot of them had podcasts. A lot of them were sort of famous beforehand. And when in the cabinet meetings, they act very subservient, right? They start saying like, "Oh, you're the best president in history. You've done all of these accolades." And he also demands the Nobel Peace Prize. Tim Cook gave him a big golden trophy, the FIFA award. Like there's a lot of people understanding this concept of that Trump needs more and more and more of the drug, more of the drug. Can that wear out? Like, is there a point where he gets so accustomed to this that there is no amount of accolade that gets him off? And what happens to a narcissist when you tap out?
I guess that explains the Nobel Peace Prize thing.
Oh, that's a great question. There's a point at which their need for supply keeps increasing, and it's not so much that they need more. It's just that it needs to be constant.
No, it doesn't have the same muscle group.
Okay, so it's not that, I have 50,000 people at this rally, I need 70 at the next one, because I'm getting used to that. I need to keep growing, like with some drugs. So I wouldn't say that you need that type of increase as much as it just needs to be constant. So it's more as if you don't become tolerant to it as much as it just becomes a constant need, because the need is the pathology. So it's different from the physiological response with a drug. So whether it's cocaine or we use heroin, that it's not part of your body. There are some endogenous heroin-like molecules, but that level of drug is not part of your physiology normally. So you have to put in an abnormal amount to get the effect, and your physiology changes, and that's why you need more. With something like narcissism, it's part of your core personality, is a tendency for those traits. So it's embedded, and the amount of it is more or less embedded. It grows or expresses itself as you grow up, but the traits are there and part of the core. So you don't get the need for more as much as you get the need for constant.
So there's a theory among presidents that often comes up in discussions that the president is not really.
I wouldn't consider getting a zero bike until they come out with their DC fast charging. I'm pretty sure they're still testing it. I wouldn't even consider getting one until they have DC fast charging on their newer bikes. From what I've seen, the DSR... I don't know if this is the only bike that they're planning on implementing it on. Their website is fucking stupid. Let's see. 21 kilowatt nominal. Oh, 21 kilowatt hour power tank. That's stupid. Do they... What? Yeah, it looks like currently they don't sell... They haven't actually started selling their DC charging. They only have their 6.6 kilowatt charger. Once they have the, what is it, CS charger, then maybe I'd consider getting one, but yeah, you don't want a fucking electric bike that can't fast charge. Trust me. I've been there, done that. Unless you're living in the city, you're only doing city commuting, and you know for a fact you're not going to move out of that area for like a while, I wouldn't bother getting any electric bike that doesn't have DC fast charging. Ben Boyd, $22 VG, are your poops like this?
Please come out. Please.
Yeah, me too. Hey, butthead. It won't come out.
Maybe you should try using manners.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Please come out of my butt. Please. Thank you, drive-through.
No, I have a much easier time. Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy. There are absolutely no electric bikes on the market right now that will give you 200 miles of range. That is complete and utter horseshit. Maybe if you're going 30 kilometers an hour the entire time, but yeah, if you try to do highway driving, most you can really hope for with realistic riding is like maybe 80 miles, something like that. Or like 100, 120 kilometers, but yeah, no. No one drives the speed limit, so if the speed limit's 100 kilometers, you're realistically going to be driving like at least 110, if not 120. Especially on a motorcycle, like it's a lightweight thing, it doesn't take up much space, you're going to want to go fast, so realistically, most of your riding on the highway, you're going to be going like 20 over the speed limit. You're not getting 200 miles with any electric motorcycle. I would generally just recommend getting a gas bike. Electric is a pain in the ass. Like, everyone says electric is so much more reliable and requires so much less maintenance. Yeah, until something doesn't work. Especially with these newer batteries that have high voltage systems and they're getting over 300 volts. Something's gonna fucking overheat, break down. You're gonna have, like, some kind of, some kind of fuse blow. And you can't service these things on your own. First of all, they're put together in a way where you can't take them apart on your own, and you need to go to the fucking dealer. And working on high voltage systems like that is also really dangerous and shit, and they're made in a way where you can't just, fix the shit on your own. And I can guarantee you're probably going to have way more problems that are more difficult to deal with where you need dealer support with an electric vehicle, period, than you would with a gas bike. Like my Ural, that is the most technically it's the second most unreliable vehicle I've owned. The Zeros that I had, the FX bikes, those have been more of a fucking problem for me. But, yeah, the Ural is much less reliable than my V-Strom. I've had the, I've had the, alternator blow, and I've had one of the push rods break on it. I actually got the alternator serviced at the dealer, just because it was still under warranty, but it's easy to fix and replace on your own. The push rod that broke, it was the exhaust valve push rod. It's fucking easy to fix. You just take off the valve cover, you pull off the cylinder head, you take out the push rod, you put in the new one, and then you're good to go. Like, if anything goes wrong with an electric, you always have to go to the dealer, and especially when you're talking about motorcycle dealers, they can have very long lead times, especially like at the beginning of a season. You may have to wait like 2 months before they can do anything for your fucking bike. It's kind of retarded. So they're not really any more reliable. You may technically need more maintenance with a gas engine, just because, like, you do need to periodically adjust valves. You do need to change the oil, change spark plugs, but it's not a big fucking deal for one thing. Valve adjustments are a different story. That can be more of a pain in the ass, but, like, the majority of your maintenance is just going to be changing oil, which is what you have to do with a lot of modern electric bikes anyway, because they have cooling systems, especially if they have DC fast chargers. So you can either have a bike that's easy to fucking work on and fix, and you have to basically do the same amount of maintenance, or you could have a bike that is very difficult to fix. You need specialized equipment. You need to take it to the fucking dealer. You have to pay more money to have them fucking fix it. You can't do it on your own. And there's a very good likelihood it's not even any more fucking reliable, because, again, like, they're all moving to higher voltage so that they can handle DC fast charging.
Isaac is the top right.
I think you have the wrong idea. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Michelle's pussy and butthole are so fucking cute. I really like pussies that grip. And hers grips onto that cock for dear life. By that cock I mean the cock of that 50-something-year-old Australian man who is her sugar daddy and...
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks for the donation, dude. Yeah, on top of that, with electric, the charging infrastructure is fucking terrible. Like, they have apps to show you where public chargers are. Half the time, they're not actually public. They're chargers that are at car dealerships, and they won't even let you use them. So you end up getting stranded. Or the chargers that you do have access to don't work. So it's just horrendous. It's awful. So if you're going to get an electric bike for anything, like, it has to be for, like, short city travel or just recreational use, like dirt bike or something. If you actually have to travel a fair bit, like, you know, what I do, where I'm very regularly going on the highway for long distance, like, just forget about it.
In control. There's other people in control of the government who are stakeholders of various sorts. We don't need to go too far down that road, except to say, is it very easy to control a narcissist by controlling the supply of that adulation? For instance, could invading Venezuela have been someone else's plan, but they just were able to ease their way and manipulate the narcissist by giving them in order to control Trump? Like, is Trump really in control of himself if he's a demented, malignant narcissist?
I would say at this point, Trump is, you know, it's hard for me to say. You know, I don't want to say, oh, he's not in charge of the people running the show, because, you know.
It's too bad you can't pull any 18-year-old virgin, vegan, naive, submissive Chinese girls. You just can't compete with a literal 50-year-old whose skin is burnt and has pubes for facial hair, I guess.
Yeah, it's a shame. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't know, right? We don't know what's really going on. Does it seem like there's some of that going on? Does it seem like he's being controlled or kept under wraps? Maybe is a better way of saying it. You know, that would appear to be the case, at least in some instances. People playing to his core that gives him the supply, you know, are more likely to get attention. So in that.
What do you recommend for kidney stones? Whatever the standard treatment is.
In that sense, you know, you're spot on with the idea that could Venezuela, for example, be the actual inputs of someone else. Yes, in terms of knowing also what the guy's like. It's like the trophies. Oh, you give the guy something gold, you know, some award. Nobody's ever gotten this. Great, he's happy. He'll give you something in return. It's kind of the same thing. I think if you play to his core personalities, his core likes, that you're more likely to get what you want, as well. So, yeah, you're feeding him supply, and he's going to reward the dealer. Just like you pay the drug dealer. He'll pay that person with kudos, or whatever it might be. So yeah, so I think that it's he may be being controlled to a certain extent, but I think it's maybe more in terms of knowing what he would like to be doing to begin with, and then playing to that in order to aggrandize, if you will, yourself.
When you worked in Colorado, you were part of this organization called Duty to Warn, right? Which balances this necessity of patient privacy, under HIPAA, can't disclose what's going on in someone's brain, with public safety. And a great example of this would be a school shooter, right? Somebody who's going to a psychiatrist and saying, hey, I'm going to go shoot up a school. The psychiatrist no longer is responsible just for that patient. They're now responsible for the broader public safety because they've been given this information. That allows them to go out and tell the police that, hey, I've got a patient that's about to do something really bad. How does this concept fit in with the current political situation right now? And you, as somebody with an expertise in psychology and neuroscience, how does that?
This is gonna sound racist, but it's not. The reason is primarily because Chinese girls don't fuck with blackies. And secondarily because you never reach out to girls, so you will never get what you want. Nigga.
Actually, there's a lot of Chinese girls that are into black dudes. It's Japanese and Koreans that never date black dudes. I think that's changing a little bit in Japan, but Korea, yeah, that's a no-no. So, I've seen a lot of Chinese women date black dudes. It's not quite as common as them being into white dudes, but it is a thing. Japanese, that's fairly rare, but I've seen a few more Japanese chicks date black dudes, but Koreans, yeah, no chance. Thanks for the donation on the 21st.
Fit in with the political situation we have right now.
The concept of duty to warn, and you're right, does evolve out of the idea that if you're a psychotherapist or psychiatrist and you have a patient that is telling you about bad things that they are going to do, man, when I get home, I'm going to teach that woman da 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 da. You have a duty to warn that can supersede the patient-client confidentiality. Normal situation, right? And that's where this arose out of, in part also because of the Goldwater rule, and we can talk about that more in a minute. But to get right to your question, so the duty to warn issue arose from the idea. There's at least one paper that was published a few years back about duty to inform. That was exactly this type of situation. That when a public figure is displaying characteristics that make them truly unfit or problematic or dangerous, that any scientific expert or MD, PhD, whatever that knows the content has a duty to inform people. And so duty to warn sort of came partly out of that, partly out of the whole idea of people talking about Donald Trump being unfit at the beginning of his first term. And it was this idea that, yes, we need to warn the public that this person is unfit, in the same way that we would warn your spouse if you were sitting in a session saying, when I get home, I'm going to kill that, whatever. So, yeah, so it's an extension of that to the public arena.
So do you think, given what you've, your observations, right, do you think that Trump is unfit for office? Let's start there.
Oh, God, yes. Is my, how did we get into this freaking mess type of response? He was unfit. Can I go back to at least 2015, 16? Technically, he was unfit, for years before that. But when he started running for president, he was so absolutely unfit. There were so many instances. Like I mentioned, the one with the reporter. There were just so many of those types of things. The whole pedophile thing, and from that relate to narcissism too, not just to the pedophile, but as it relates to narcissism.
I guess since you've brought that up, let's go in. What does pedophilia have to do with narcissism?
Okay. So let me make something straight. I want to say one thing, and I wrote an article about this, and I got some fascinating feedback. So I'm going to say it again, damn it. Technically, because I said Trump is not a pedophile. Oh God, don't clip that out and put that as a quote, out of context, okay? Because in the general understanding, it's like Alzheimer's being a form of dementia. Okay, it's the same thing. Technically speaking, clinically speaking, he's it's hard to say. He's an epibophile. and a bebephile.
A bebephile.
Yes.
What's a bebephile?
Isn't it?
It's someone who's attracted to young ladies, okay, that are in their early teens, okay, 13, 14, 15, which is different from someone who's attracted to 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, okay? And you may think, yeah, what's the difference? But there's actually a neurobiological difference. If you do like brain scans and show images, a true pedophile will show sexual arousal when they're showing pictures of like little kids. Someone, like Trump or someone who likes young, teenage girls, like boys, what have you, won't be. So they're not interested in young prepubescent children. Okay, so that's
that's interesting. Different. There's in the letter that he wrote to Epstein, there's a line saying, we have a secret, we have share a secret, and one of the he uses a word in the end of the poem, and I'm not recollecting it right now. Butting in here for a second, I sort of botched it in the original interview, and I wanted to just get this absolutely right. In the birthday poem, Trump, there was this line saying, "Have you noticed that enigmas never age?" And that is, many observers have noticed, is a anagram, which means sort of move some letters around and you get a different word with a more precise meaning. It's an anagram for the French word gamine, which is a young lady. And when he's saying,
do we really believe Trump would be smart enough to do this? I don't know.
Enigmas never age. It's kind of like that line in Dazed and Confused where, what I like about high school girls? You get older, they say the same age. That's that same line in that birthday poem. Yeah, totally gross. All right, let's get back.
The only way this makes sense is if Epstein told him that he could, send secret letters back and forth using that term. There's no fucking chance Trump would have been able to, do something clever like that.
Back to where the interview was just now. I would agree that it does seem, all the photos with him, he's not with like true children, right? But he's with people who are certainly minors, and he certainly seems to be very close to a known sex trafficker.
And so it's I think it's fine just to put him in the category of, they're all pedophiles. Him, Epstein, whomever else was involved. Technically speaking, it's different, but you can use the term pedophilia.
But what does narcissism have to do with pedophilia?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's not so much a sexual attraction as it is power. When you think about rape in general, most rapes are not about sex; they're more about power and dominance, control, and that's what's going on. Given malignant narcissism, that person is unable to have an authentic, intimate relationship. Okay, any relationship that they would have would be about manipulation and control. So, who's easiest to manipulate or control? Some 14 or 15-year-old girl that's just all starry-eyed because this older, rich, powerful guy thinks that she's pretty hot, whatever it may be. So it's easy to have that situation working totally to your advantage, where you can go in, dominate, control, do whatever you want, and you're getting your reward, your supply from that without having to not be able to do anything authentic in the process.
It would seem, that I don't know if you're familiar with the Katie Johnson testimony with Trump, where she recounted several assaults by Trump over the course of probably a 2 or 3 month period with him. And she said that at one point there was this threesome activity that he had arranged with a woman who was from South America somewhere. And in that fantasy that he constructed, he was telling, while they were engaged in sexual activity, and I don't want to get too explicit because YouTube demonetizes everything that I do, but during a sexual activity, he was telling her that if she doesn't do a particular act, he would get her deported. He would, go to immigration for it. And there was this sort of like, and this was obviously before the ICE raids. All this testimony came out in, I think, 2015. It seems to play into what we're also seeing in his personality in the public sphere. Like it doesn't take too much of a cognitive leap to see the person who's saying, has these sadistic, we're going to send all these people into immigration detention facilities, we're going to deport all these people, and calling them violent, and oftentimes even calling them sexual predators in various ways, to then see also in his own intimate life, he would have this sort of the mirror image of that happening.
What you find is excellent. You've just pointed out that the whole concept of projection, where he's telling someone else all the things that he's guilty of, and the concept there from a psychological perspective, narcissism perspective, is that the fear inside the narcissist is that their underlying insecurity will get exposed, and so they have to take those situations out of themselves and dump them onto someone else to get rid of their internal anxieties. Because one thing that not a lot of people know that I probably should throw in here is that pathological narcissism is actually a disorder of insecurity. So what you see is a mask, and you'll read about or reference to having to preserve the mask or cracks in the mask, sort of thing, and they'll do anything they can. And that's what we're saying about Trump now. He'll do anything he can to preserve that mask, and the Epstein files are cracking it, and exposing him. And so there's this underlying anxiety, fear, this insecurity. There's the true pathology. So anything that's attacking that, they have to get rid of and throw onto someone else. So I'm not the one having an affair. You're the one having an affair. I'm not, etc. So they're doing that mirror.
One thing that has always confused me about the ideology coming out of the MAGA movement, right, is that there's this Christian nationalist component to it, especially with Project 2025. And one of the things that goes on with that, or that those particular types of tenets, is that they're calling for people to go to church, to have a certain upstanding veneer of morality. They're saying, they're trying to curtail women's rights, particularly around abortion and voting, possibly lots of things to curtail and sort of control the libidinal desires of women. And yet they also seem to have their own obvious libidinal exposition and actions. What is going on there?
Well, there's something going on there, and what's going on there, I mean, not 100% of what's going on there, but what's going on there from this discussion is that pastors, religious leaders, are also a career area, if you will, that's very high in narcissists. And it's the same reasons. You have the ability to have this power over people, to control, to manipulate. In this case, you get to call on the power of God. So if you don't want to do what I'm telling you to do, God will not like you. Let's say, it's not just me. It's you can call in the A-team, to come in as your support, and that's an amount of manipulation and control that's extreme. So their ability to get these people again to bow down, to do what they want, to provide them with that ability to be controlled, is a part of that narcissism. And again, it's a trait that runs very high in that population of religious leaders.
Well, I want to just thank you for the work that you've done. And
all right, it is ridiculously late for me. I've had sleep issues, which is why my schedule's kind of fucked around, but that's Mike O'Hearn being the greatest natty lifter of all time. But I will be on tomorrow, probably at a normal time, because I don't have to train. And we'll probably try to finish Beyond Two Souls, and then we'll figure out what game we're going to play next. But big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Sweet dreams, or good morning, depending on the time zone you're in.